This is a guy who has number one overall, number one option type of potential. Again, with the three-level stuff, let's see how he fits with the Washington Wizards here. We're going to plug him in right away for Bilal Coulibaly. And look at that lineup now. You have star power all over the place on the wing with Trey and Anthony Davis as Sar down low. So easy fit. A very safe pick in terms of the physical ability, the skill level. The production led the country in scoring as a freshman. He really matched the hype coming in.
I think as you watched his season progress at BYU, Cart, it was undeniable to see how it could translate to the NBA level. One thing you alluded to is the fact that he carries himself like a true alpha, a true franchise player, superstar, from the personality to what he brings onto the court as well. Boogie, I'm curious to ask you this, because Trae Young is a superstar. Anthony Davis is a superstar. They're adding a third big name, big personality to that. Certainly the veteran talents are going to have to sort of be welcoming for this to work. How do you see that going down?
I think that's ideal. I think it's a great situation for a young superstar to walk into. You need current stars to groom the new star, you know what I mean? So having a veteran like Anthony Davis, having a veteran like Trae Young, two guys that can kind of show you the ropes, make that transition a little easier for you, I think it's the perfect situation. So two great guys to learn from. You got a champion, Anthony Davis, who's done it at the elite level. He's been elite at every level he's played at. So for AJ to come in and that's your veteran, that's the guy you get to work with every day, learn from every day, it's only a plus for AJ moving forward.
Carr, how good are the Wizards right now?
I think they could be really good. Honestly, if AD stays healthy, Trae Young is one of the more underappreciated point guards, I think, in the NBA. He gets slighted a little bit because of his size and maybe some defensive stuff. But, I mean, when you just look at that big three right there, I'm going to go ahead and throw the big three word out there. Trae Young, AJ Dybantsa, and Anthony Davis is going to be a tough trio to stop.
Are we cool with big three for that, Boogie? That's a big term, big three in the NBA.
Hey man, I like to respect the rookies, but I also want the rookies to respect the veterans. It's a real transition into the pro level. So I don't like to put too big of expectations on these young guys. I want them to come in, learn the ropes. Obviously you become a part of a team as a rookie, and then if that star is really a star, then the team becomes his. So it's a process for him right now, and I just want him to go through this process.
Well, one thing that's undeniable and ready is the scoring, because I have not seen many scorers in my 25 years of watching college basketball that are as NBA ready as AJ Dybantsa. Carr, how do you think that's going to look in an NBA uniform from day one?
Look, I think that's one of the great things about AJ is that when you watch him score at a college level, it can translate to the NBA. He has the isolation scoring. He has the mid-range game. He has the athleticism. I actually think he shot the three ball better than he got credit for. If he brings that along a little bit in the next coming years, I think counted by year 3, he'll be a leading scorer in the NBA eventually.
All right, so on the clock at number 2 now is the Utah Jazz. This could get interesting. Darryn Peterson is the expectation, viewed as a 1A, 1B, really the only debate at number 1 for Washington, who ultimately chose Dybantsa. However, Cameron Boozer's father, Carlos, does work in the front office for the Utah Jazz. Boogie, if you were in charge of this decision, what would the decision be?
I mean, it makes sense. You have your father, working in the front office. He actually had an opportunity to play there as well. Everything's kind of very familiar in that sense. Also, when it comes to Boozer, he's a safe pick. You know exactly what you're getting from him. I can see this kid being a 10, 15-year veteran in his league. Super sound, super mature for his age. Pretty much good at everything, good defensively. So it's a safe pick, it's a familiar pick, and it just makes sense for Utah right now. So I definitely would lean towards Cameron Boozer.
Cart, there was a real fight for who would go number 1. Darryn Peterson last week was not working out for teams beyond the Washington Wizards. Ultimately, there were reports coming in that he ultimately did meet with the Utah Jazz, amongst other teams. Would that be a concern for you if you were on the clock right now with Darryn Peterson?
It wouldn't be a concern for me. I mean, we watched last year, Ace Bailey didn't talk or work out for the Utah Jazz as well. I just think that you got to be able to draft talent at this point when you're picking number 2, and that feels like a very talented player.
All right, the pick is in, and it is Darryn Peterson. Okay, the 1A, 1B held true here in the first 2 picks of the 2026 NBA draft. It was a strange year at Kansas, to say the least, for Darryn Peterson, but coming in to his college year, there were many who believed this was the best player in the class.
yeah, I think when you have that 6'4" frame with the scoring ability that he has, this was a kid who was highly prolific scoring the basketball. And yes, there were some concerns. There was a creatine incident that he had, obviously the cramps that happened during this year. But when he was on the floor for Kansas, there was not a better scorer in the country, to be honest with you. And I've even put him up there with AJ Dybantsa scoring-wise. He has all that guard package that you want to score at the NBA level.
We've heard Kobe Bryant comps. We've heard Michael Jordan comps. If we really want to get crazy, Boogie, what do you see from Darryn Peterson?
I can see the Kobe in this game. I can see the self-confidence. I can see the isolation package. Everything that, we loved about Kobe, this kid shows flashes of. Super, super talented kid. Probably the most talented in the draft. He didn't do himself any favors with the, situations at Kansas, but with the talent, all that can be overlooked. Just too talented to pass up on. I am concerned with the combination of him and Keontae George. I want to see what that looks like with those two on the floor together. They both need the ball in their hands to be themselves, so that's something to be figured out. But, undeniable talent.
Yeah, the future in Utah on the front court will be interesting with Lauri Markkanen, Jaren Jackson, and Walker Kessler. Maybe that played a factor here in going away from Cameron Boozer. But let's go to Wasp because your number one player on your big board is still available. However, Darryn Peterson is off your big board. What's the grade?
Yeah, I did have Boozer as my number one guy, but everyone around the NBA expected Darryn Peterson to be the pick. Like Boogie said, the most talented naturally player in the draft. This is another A. Again, you cannot go wrong with this pick. Incredible shot creator, but what I think he showed this year was how good he was off the ball. And I think this clip really illustrates this. Looks like more like a Ray Allen type, and that's something we didn't really expect coming in, right? Before this year, he was an on-ball guy. I compare him to Devin Booker a little bit in terms of a guy who could be interchangeable. You could put him on the ball, but obviously slide off it. And so we are now with Utah. And like Boogie said, there's going to be an interesting fit in the backcourt with Darryn and with, let's see, we're going to knock Kessler out of here. We're going to put, let's put Markkanen down low at the 4. You got an interesting lineup. You've got a lot of size in the backcourt. You got Ace Bailey playing the 3. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of questions on what happens with Walker Kessler. But there is a lot of firepower in the backcourt. Again, I think we only saw 80% of what Peterson can really do. When he was at prolific, again, this is an on-ball shot creator, 3-level guy. He was a secondary playmaker. We didn't see any of that this year at Kansas. He played off the ball a lot, shot 50% nearly on dribble handoff threes, 40% on movement shooting threes. When he gets to be in the NBA and he's got a little bit more juice in his legs, he's got much better spacing. In Utah, I think we're going to see a totally different player and a guy who could definitely compete for Rookie of the Year next year.
All right, I'm watching the chat here on the BR Live show. Petey Pete is saying Jake Fisher has the scoops. Let's go live to the Fish Bowl. Fish, what's going on here?
What's going on, guys? Darryn Peterson told me to my face yesterday that he did have some type of clandestine, not anymore after telling it publicly to a reporter, meeting, collaboration, whatever, sit down with Utah, and that he was happy to go to the Jazz, even though he was trying to do some chicanery and be the number 1 overall pick. He's very happy to go there. He'll report. What's interesting here is that Cam Boozer, I do believe, very much was under consideration. And in that event, I was curious to see if Boozer went there, what that would have meant for Walker Kessler's restricted free agency, being that there would have been clearly a loaded front line with Lauri Markkanen and Jaren Jackson Jr. already there. But now they completely avoid that situation. Peterson is the 2 guard of the future in Utah, but he goes next to Keontae George, who is going to have a very expensive restricted free agency a rookie scale negotiation coming up here. So how those 2 guys fit and also how they fit ultimately in the Utah Jazz cap construction was a very big piece of Darryn Peterson's camp, trying to steer him potentially to Washington. So that's just kind of the notebook dump that I have for you guys on Darryn Peterson going off the board.
Thank you, Fish. The word Fish used was chicanery. Let's call it what it is here on the Couch Boys. AJ Dybantsa and Darryn Peterson, I don't think they love each other. I think both these guys wanted to go 1. I mean, as true lovers of this game, I think we've been craving this type of competitive gene from a new generation of guys coming into this draft. But one thing I will point out, in previous meetings between Dybantsa and Peterson, there's one guy who's always getting the better of the other, It's Darryn Peterson. Card, how much does that matter?
I think it definitely matters because it means that he's taken that matchup personally. These guys have been going at it since high school, whether it's AAU, playing for their high school teams, all the way to the Big 12. Anytime that Darryn Peterson saw A.J. Dybantsa across from him, he set out to prove that he was the best player. And I think you can make an argument that when they were on the floor together, Darryn Peterson was better than the number 1 pick in this draft.
Boogie, how normal is it for that type of dynamic to arrive to an NBA draft class at the very top between 2 elite players?
It makes sense. These are guys that have been battling throughout their high school careers. I'm sure they have a mutual, respect/hate for one another. All in competitive nature. I think it's good for the game. I think it's good for the competitiveness of the game. And we'll see. We could see this matchup maybe later on in the NBA. It could possibly be a conference finals type matchup. So I'm excited.
All right, the Memphis Grizzlies are on the clock now, and the pick is in. And I don't think there's any drama with this one. It is Cameron Boozer, the National Player of the Year. While we sit here debating Dybantsa versus Peterson, there's a guy who has arguably won more from both a team and a personal standpoint in pretty much every step of the way developmentally here. Carter, quick reaction to Cameron Boozer going 3rd.
I think this is a great pickup for the Grizzlies. I think they're getting a number 1 level pick talent at 3. He just does everything on the basketball court. I know a lot of people throw the safe word out with him, but I think that maybe diminishes the fact that this was the National Player of the Year. He can score the ball, he can rebound, he can pass, and like you said, Greg, he's won at every level, whether it's FIBA gold medals, high school national championships. Obviously, Duke this year was very successful. He's a winner through and through and a very productive basketball player.
He said tonight that he thinks years from now people will look back wondering how he didn't go first in this draft. Boogie, do you think that's a possibility down the line?
Absolutely, it's a possibility. One, you never know how individual's career plays out. So, and a lot of time, your career is depending on the location you are. So you never know how that plays out for him. But just him as an individual talent, he has it all. He can do it all. He comes from a background, which is a plus in my opinion. This is just a kid that you know is going to come in ready. He's going to be a professional from day one. The maturity is there. This is a guy you're confident in building around. Can set the culture for the rest of the guys that do end up coming there. So, like I said, this is a great pick for them. And I'll still use the word safe pick because it is. It's a very safe pick.
Yeah, I think it's the right pick at 3, given who's come off the board in the first 2. And I think Jonathan Wasserman agrees. Was, how you feeling?
Yeah, this is the best prospect in the draft, in my opinion, if you're evaluating in a vacuum, regardless of what team he goes to. So I'm giving this an A+. I talked to Memphis earlier in the process. They weren't really stressing much about number 3. They were going to take whoever fell to them. I think they're thrilled that it was Cameron Boozer. And so let's see how he kind of, well, actually, you know what? Let's go back and take a look let's go back and take a look at his highlights here and kind of who he reminds me of. And the Kevin Love comparisons got thrown out a lot. But by the way, Kevin Love wasn't attacking like this. You see the Euro step in the lane. This isn't just a bully. This guy has perimeter skill, footwork, feel, stuff that you can't teach. And so I think he's, again, maybe the most well-rounded offensive prospect that I've ever evaluated. When you talk about a 40% three-point shooter, you talk about his 4 assists per game, you talk about the rebounding, the interior play. There he is, right in the middle of that lineup there. And so I think he could play even some wing. People are almost like, oh, he can't play the 5. I think he can play some 3 because of how good he is away from the basket. You can run offense through him. I think he's underrated as an athlete. Boogie, by the way, do you remember what your max vert was at the NBA Combine?
I don't want to talk about it.
I'll help you out. It was 27.5.
Yeah.
Boozer was 34.5, and he gets crap for not being a good enough athlete. I think he's going to be just fine.
Oh, good Lord. All right, we're going to go to Fish, live in the Fish Bowl. Fish, what do you got for us?
Just quickly here, Memphis, they're due to be back up on the clock again at number 16. We have definitely been monitoring them as one team that is looking to trade back up into the lottery, so stay tuned for that. They might not get there, but they're going to be trying.
Okay, thank you, Fish. Let's keep an eye on the Memphis Grizzlies, and I have an eye on the chat who loved this pick. They graded this an A live in the show right now. Card, I'm with Was. I've been telling you privately for the better part of 2 months, this is who I would have taken at 1. And I think we're watching the NBA turn toward these elite processors. I don't think that we are still living in an era where the best athletes are necessarily the best players. Certainly it helps. But there's a reason that Cameron Boozer was the National Player of the Year at Duke last year, and it wasn't A.J. Dybantsa at BYU, and it wasn't Darryn Peterson at Kansas. How likely is all of that to translate, in your opinion?
I think it will translate. And I think for the Grizzlies, it's crazy to think a few years ago it was Ja, it was Dillon Brooks, it was Desmond Bane, and we thought they were going to be challenging in the West and possibly win a championship. Now things got a little chaotic. And one thing about Cameron Boozer, nothing about his game is chaotic. I think he'll stabilize that team a little bit while also adding talent. And then Memphis can kind of reset a little bit and see what they can do with the rest of their team. But I think they can build around a guy like Cameron Boozer, because one thing you can give him credit for, I think he makes everyone around him better.
Well, I think this was definitely the right pick for Memphis. I do have questions on what the future of Memphis looks like. Is Ja Morant in the long-term plans of this team? Zach Edey, another guy that will pair nicely with Boozer in the front court. Boogie, how do you think that works out in the future?
I just don't see it really working out with Ja Morant. Everything that's kind of transpired through the previous seasons just doesn't make sense. In my opinion, it was some self-sabotage as well as far as how the Grizzlies handled their, superstar player. So it was kind of a combination of them kind of lowering his value and now we at where we at now. So I just don't see it moving forward. I don't see it being a healthy relationship moving forward. I don't think it's a fixable situation. I think the best thing is for Ja to move on, get a fresh start, and finish off his career.
Possibly a cultural reset with Cameron Boozer in the fold. All right, the Chicago Bulls are next on the clock. This has been dubbed a Big Four in the 2026 NBA draft class, Caleb Wilson being the fourth of the Big Four. There were some who posited that drafting fourth might be the comfortable spot to choose. You may not want to be the team that drafts A.J. Dybantsa and looks back years from now feeling that you made the wrong pick. The decision should be easy for Chicago in your mind. It should be Caleb Wilson, right, Cart?
I think so. I think Caleb Wilson's a guy who rolls out of bed and gives you 20 and 10. And Chicago Bulls need production and talent.
And the pick is in. It is North Carolina's Caleb Wilson, 20 and 10, huh, Cart?
20 and 10 the moment he steps on the floor. This kid is getting KG comps, and I think they're for good reason. I think he has the athleticism, the frame. He also has that competitive edge, Greg. We talked about how Darryn Peterson and A.J. Dybantsa went at it when they were playing at the prep level. Caleb Wilson saw Darryn Peterson across from him. He remembered that he got slighted in the McDonald's game, had it on his lock screen on his phone. He's a competitive kid. He's a productive kid. And unfortunately, he ended that injury soon for him at North Carolina. But, getting this type of talent at pick 4 for Chicago, I think is a really good pickup.
An incredibly poppy athlete. There have been Kevin Garnett comparisons made. Boogie, what do you think of Caleb Wilson?
I love Caleb Wilson, one of my favorite prospects out of this draft. Super talented young kid. I do see the flashes of KG. I even see a bit of Giannis in his game as far as him being able to handle the ball and get downhill and attack the rim. If he went number 1, I wouldn't have been surprised. I think he's that talented. Very versatile, great defensively. Everything you're looking for in a young prospect and a young building block for a franchise. I think this was the perfect pick for Chicago. I'm excited to see this kid play, man.
All right, let's throw it to Was. Was, what grade do you have here?
Yeah, this was another easy pick for Chicago. There probably wasn't much thinking. I think people were a little worried that they were going to get cute. They worked out a lot of guards, but that was probably more for number 15. This is an A for Caleb Wilson, who super productive, and he still has a lot to improve skill-wise. So he did a lot of this off of his own athletic ability. And like Boogie said, you see him in the open floor handling the ball. That's the type of stuff that fuels a lot of upside. The KG comparisons kind of come into play when it comes to this mid-range stuff here. Very good around the key with his touch. Let's see how he fits in a little bit with the Chicago Bulls. And I think they needed some help. Well, they did make that trade for Claxton. I don't think Claxton is going to start now unless they do some creative stuff with Buzelis. But regardless, Wilson slides in to the 4 or 5, which I think he can play, brings a lot of athletic pop around the basket. He's got to improve his three-point shooting. One thing he has to improve on is his finishing below the rim. He's so used to playing above it. He was leading the country in dunks before he hurt his hand. Below the rim, under 50% on layups. So he's got to improve a little bit there with his touch and feel. But given his age, his physical tools, and the skill level we've seen around the key, you expect him to put up big numbers even with those weaknesses.
All right. In many drafts, I think Caleb Wilson would have been in the conversation to go first overall. Is that fair to say, you think, guys?
Yeah, I think so. I just don't think you see 6'10" poppy athletes like that all the time. And I think that when you look at some smaller parts, the free throw percentage, and you just look at the shot in general, you hope that he can stretch it out a little bit on the floor, possibly stretch it out to the three-point line. And I think he'll have the ability to do so with the Bulls, so I like it.
How big of a concern is the jumper with Caleb Wilson, Boogie?
No concern at all. One thing you can learn in the NBA is how to shoot. So that's the least of my worries. Everything I've heard about this kid, he's a workhorse. He's a gym rat, loves to work on his game, super competitive. So with all those things being said, I think he's in a good spot. Learning how to shoot, that's nothing in the NBA, my opinion.
All right, I'll say it right now because I feel like this is the appropriate time in this draft live show to say it right now. I think 4 different teams think they just selected franchise players, guys. And I think this is where the draft gets interesting because I think there's about 7 different guards that nobody knows what to do with coming up next, somewhere between 5 and 11. I cannot wait to see how it shakes out. It is the Los Angeles Clippers who are on the clock next at number 5. Boogie, I'll throw it to you. You're very familiar with the Clippers. What are you expecting here?
I'm honestly expecting a trade. It doesn't make sense, in my opinion, for them to take a point guard when they just traded for Darius Garland, the big trade between him and James Harden. So you have kind of your franchise younger guard with the Clippers. So I don't see them taking a point guard. So I'm leaning more towards them looking to make a trade. I could be wrong, but that's kind of more what my gut is telling me.
Was, we got your big board up on screen right now. I mentioned all of these guards that seem interchangeable. You told me pre-show, you call 10 different people, you'll get 10 different answers on these guards. How do you see the big board right now?
Yeah, I talked to a lot of different people today, and everybody was trying to figure out how 5 through 10 we're going to go with those specific players we're looking at with Wagler, Acuff, Burries, Mikel Brown, Flemings. They're very interchangeable. I think with Wagler, what might give him an edge in L.A. is his size. He's around 6'5", barefoot, while you have guys like Acuff measured 6'2", Mikel Brown 6'3", Fleming 6'2" in socks. So that extra size and that shot-making firepower might be a good fit next to Garland.
Cart, what would you do if you were on the clock on behalf of the Clippers?
I'm torn right now because I'm looking at Darius Acuff, who was SEC Player of the Year and a franchise star-level guard. But to Wass's point, putting a guy like Keaton Wagler, who could maybe even play off-ball next to Garland, might work out. Wagler really processes the game extremely well, and I think he'd make an easy, kind of seamless transition to off-ball while you could also, make sure you show off Darius Garland if you're the Clippers.
The confusing part of this for me is what Boogie mentioned. They've got their point guard of the future. This is 5, 6 guys next in line in this draft that I think are all point guards. Is there any thought of drafting for fit here, Boogie, or is it crazy to do that at 5th overall in the draft?
It would be a little crazy at 5th. I mean, that's why I said I would see them, kind of making a trade, either trading back or just going after a veteran piece. So, I mean, taking a point guard when you just made that huge play for Darius Garland, it just doesn't make sense. If you could.
So the Spurs, by the way, we just saw them trade for De'Aaron Fox. And then they took Dylan Harper. And it's a good thing they took Dylan Harper because he's going to be a damn good player. And I think at some point you just stockpile assets and then you figure it out later.
That's a good point, Was. All right, the pick is in. Let's see what the Clippers are doing at 5.
Hey.
And it is Illinois product Keaton Wagler. This has been one of the more historically unique stories in terms of a rise developmentally from a prospect that has ever been told before. This was a 3-star out of Kansas, commits to Illinois, not even thought to be a projected starter in his freshman year. Fast forward 5 months, Illinois is in the Final Four. He's dropping 46 points on the road at Mackey Arena, and he's now the 5th overall pick to the Clippers. Cart, do you love this pick?
I do love this pick. I think that Keaton Wagler just processes the game at an extremely high level. When Brad Underwood gave him the keys to this Illinois basketball team, Brad trusted him to make the right play every single time when he was on the floor. If he went under the screen, he puts up 46 at Mackey. If they blitz the screen, he makes the right play, hits the short roll. I just think he is such a well-balanced basketball player, and just sees the game and processes it at an extremely high level. I think right away a coach is going to trust putting Keaton Wagler on the floor and that he's going to make the right play.
Let's go straight to Was here. Was, what do you think?
Yeah, this is the best prospect on my board here. So naturally, it's going to get an A. And I know we were talking about it before, but I really do like the fit in having maybe a secondary ball handler. He's not crazy explosive. He kind of reminds me of Jamal Murray, where, yeah, you could play him at the 1, but you could also play him at the 2. And I want to show, like, this clip here. really shows you how he's able to create space without much quickness, without much explosiveness. I mean, look at that move. That's just footwork. That's timing. We know about the shot-making firepower. And so, I think he's more of a combo. Let's see how he fits here with the Clippers. And listen, again, he's going to fit in right next to Darius Garland. And Chris Dunn, by the way, is a defensive specialist, I think, in my opinion. Wagler there, again, gives them more of a punch. And also, it takes some pressure off him to have Garland there. Garland's a very good pick-and-roll ball handler. Wagler was a very good off-ball shot maker. He's going to get plenty of reps, I think, over the course of the first 2 years, maybe as that secondary ball handler. And maybe eventually he will be their top guy. But I like the balance between the two of them in the backcourt, particularly with Wagler's size.
He's got the size potentially to play the two at Illinois. He certainly played with a smaller guard in Kylan Boswell, so he will not be unfamiliar. Let's go to the Fishbowl. Fish, what do you got here?
Got a lot of texts coming in. I just wanted to say this number 5 pick is where the proverbial draft started, right? After these top 4 franchise guys that you guys talked about. There was a lot of inbound trade interest for this Clippers pick. I even had teams picking just behind the Clippers, calling me while they were on the clock, asking to make sure this pick wasn't changing hands. Mikel Brown Jr. very much was in play here. I think Brayden Burries was in play here as well. We'll see who is left on the board. The Kings are very much hoping that one of these guards, I believe it's Darius Acuff, will be not selected by Brooklyn, but we're in this kind of pivot point here where the order of these 5 through 8 guards is going to be very, very important for Brooklyn, for Sacramento, and then for Atlanta at number 8.
All right, thank you, Fish. Boogie, I want to ask you one Keaton Wagler question quickly. 0 dunks in his season at Illinois. How big is that red flag?
It's not one for me. Something that stood out for me was, the almost 5 rebounds a game. That's very impressive coming from a point guard at that. So obviously he may not be the above the rim player. I was a big man and I didn't play above the rim. I can think of guys like Zach Randolph and guys of that nature who didn't necessarily play above the rim that had incredible careers. So that's not really a concern for me. As long as the skill is there, as long as he competes every night, he's willing to buy into the team concept, he'll be a great pro.
All right, the Brooklyn Nets are on the clock next at 6, and I was sitting on this very couch a year ago when we said our biggest shock of night 1 of the NBA draft was the Nets seemingly drafting 4 different point guards. I mean, they're still all on the roster as far as I checked, and here they are on the clock with a bunch of great point guards sitting in front of them. Boogie, out of the best available guards in this draft, who catches your eye the most?
I mean, Darius Acuff definitely stands out for me. I'm a huge fan of the kid. He had an incredible collegiate season. Probably one of the best players in college outside of Cameron Boozer. Just a natural floor leader. I think he's a superstar in the making. He has that star appeal to him. Reminded me a lot of Stephon Marbury. Short, compact guard, but kind of big at the same time. Super strong. Can get downhill at will, shoot the piss out the ball. Everything you're kind of looking for in that floor general. So and he competes. He's a high level competitor. So Darius Acuff for me.
Carr, how do you sort through all of these guards that are best available right now?
I mean, look, you touched on it last year. We saw the Nets draft a bunch of guards, but those guards who wanted to just pass the ball to each other. I think they need an alpha guard, and that's what Darius Acuff is, like Boogie pointed out. I think he's a guy that comes in right away. He can score the ball, he can compete, and also he can just bring a little bit of an it factor to the Nets. They just kind of just seem to be stuck in this spot. I think Darius Acuff is the type of guard that can come in and just kind of, give a little shock to a franchise. Yeah,
he definitely carries himself like an alpha, and as Boogie knows well, John Calipari guards have a little bit of a reputation in the league. He has been one of Cal's most vocally supported prospects in a while. I think just last week he said right out the box, expect 18-8 from him. Do you think that's coming, Boogie?
Absolutely, man. This kid just has it. Like I said, he's a star in the making. Just the aura, everything about the confidence, it kind of just oozes out of him, as a player on the floor. Big games, he shows up every night. It's everything you're looking for in that lead guard. And I think he's also a culture change. I think he can possibly go to Brooklyn and change that entire organization around. I think he's that talented. I think he's that good. And he's a natural-born leader.
All right, well, the pick is in for the Brooklyn Nets at 6. Let's see where they go, and it is not Darius Acuff. It is Mikel Brown Jr. Okay, here we go. I don't know if this registers as a surprise or not, but Mikel Brown, who had a season at Louisville that was a little bit in and out, some injury concerns that held him out of the lineup at times, and even a little bit of smoke that his college coach may not have been invited to the green room with him this week. But yet, there was a point in time not long ago that Mikel Brown was on a team with A.J. Dybantsa, Team USA, where Mikel Brown was the most productive player on that team. Boogie, how surprised are you by this pick?
I'm not surprised. This is a very talented kid. Just based off my roots, I don't want to give him too much love because he's a Louisville kid. He played at Louisville, I believe blue, so obviously we had that rivalry. But super talented kid, bigger guard. Like you said, he had a kind of up and down year, but overall, very, very talented kid. I can see him, changing things around for Brooklyn as well. I'm not mad at this pick. Almost 20 a game. I think this is a very, very solid pick.
Cart, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think he's just a dynamic guard that can score off the bounce. And I think that the Nets could use that. And like you stated, when he was on the floor with some of these top picks, he was one of the better players. I think I was on record saying he's got a little bit of Kyrie to his game, but maybe a little bit more bounce as well. I know that's very high praise for him, but I think this is a kid that can really score the ball off the bounce.
A creative offensive superstar. Was, we're going to you next. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't the top guy on my board, but these guys are so close, it doesn't matter. I think in that perspective, you've got to take fit into the equation here. I'm giving this an A-. Again, you can't go wrong with this player at number 6 in the draft, and I think he might be the best fit with who they drafted last year with Yegor Demon, who is a big ball handler, kind of needs the rock, and of course Nolan Traore, who they also took as a point guard. I think Brown could play combo guard. He's much bigger than some of the other guys on the board. And his bread and butter is kind of just, again, he's like a microwave. Great at creating his own shot, incredible shot-making confidence. And so I just like his fit with this team. And they need some offense, particularly at that spot. Let's move him over Drake Powell over there. And so, listen, he was the number 2 guard coming into this draft behind Darryn Peterson, the consensus number 2 guy. And then, of course, Wagler came out of nowhere, and Acuff had that incredible season. So, and there was these back problems. You wonder if maybe, the percentages were a little bit overblown this year, and that maybe based on what we saw in high school, he was the best prospect of the guys that we just talked about. When you take into account the superior athleticism compared to Acuff and Flemings, and Burries, who's still on the board, throwing the shot making, had the 30% assist percentage. So he's a very well-rounded offensive player. And I think maybe, we only saw maybe 85% of what he could really do.
He had moments this season at Louisville, setting Louisville freshman scoring records for threes in a game as well. Jake Fisher in the Fishbowl, what do you have for us here?
So the intel all draft long was that Mikel Brown Jr. was not going to be going past Brooklyn. In the beginning of his pre-draft process, he was working out in Orlando. The Nets flew down to Orlando to see him. He flew up to Brooklyn to work out for the Nets twice. And there was all this jockeying with the Clippers and the Nets both potentially trying to convince the Sacramento Kings to move up to 5 or 6 and select Darius Acuff. But the board going Wagler Brown, it cleared the pathway for Scott Perry, the Kings GM, to select their favorite guard, Arkansas guard Darius Acuff. That will be the next pick here at number 7 for Sacramento.
All right, thank you, Fish. You mentioned it, Darius Acuff, the guy we were just talking about, expected to come off the board next as the Sacramento Kings come on the board next. This has gone chalky, boys. Are you noticing what I'm noticing? I was kind of expecting some chaos at the top of this draft. Was, it hasn't happened.
I'm 6 for 6 on mock drafts. I'm sure other people are as well. But like you said, yeah, this is what everyone expected. And Acuff at 7 is exactly what I'm sure Sacramento was hoping for.
All right, so if you're the Kings GM, Boogie, and Acuff falls to you at 7, are you just grinning ear to ear?
Absolutely, and there was a lot of, speculation leading up to this. Is the 2 names being attached as far as the Kings loving Acuff. Also, Scott Perry having history with his father, so that also makes a lot of sense. But you can't speak enough about this kid and what he brings to the game. I think this is a great pick for the Kings as far as righting the ship, creating a culture there. I think this is a great culture starter for the Kings. You get your lead guard, you can kind of start building around that. as far as building out your future, but Darius Acuff is the perfect pick for the Kings. Please take great care of him. I'm a huge fan of the kid. We know how Sacramento gets, but take care of him.
That's what I was thinking.
And, you know, I think this is a good pick for them moving forward.
I'm going to say, Cart, you're a Darius Acuff guy. He started in the state of Michigan, where we're from, and the pick is in. It is Acuff at 7. Look, we have to say it. The Kings don't have the greatest history taking care of guys we love like Darius Acuff. Cart, how concerned are you?
I'm a little bit concerned, I'm not going to lie to you, but they're getting a chance to run it back, man. You didn't do the Tyrese Halliburton thing right. The De'Aaron Fox thing didn't end well. They need to take good care of him, like Boogie said, because this is a star-level guard. He is tough. He can score the ball, and he scores the ball so well that I think people don't give him enough credit that he can really distribute the ball as well out of the pick and roll. This is a dynamic, all-star level guard that the Kings are getting right now, and now it's time for them to do right by him, because I'm sure that he'll do right by them. I think he comes in right away, and he changes some things for the Kings.
Boogie, you played in college with the guy that I think many consider the greatest John Calipari guard of all time, in John Wall. How far behind is Darius Acuff Jr.?
Well, that's questionable. I mean, I got the most love for John. I'm probably one of his biggest fans, but when you think about the long history of Cal guards, you got to think about the Derrick Roses, the Darius Washingtons, the Tyreek Evans, even the Darius Acuff now, the Eric Bledsoes, the Aaron Fox, Brandon Knight. It's a lot of guys that played under Cal. This is just another one. One thing you can trust about being a Cal guard is he's going to develop them. He's going to make them ready for the pros. So that's a great thing for any organization moving forward. You know, that's a positive. But I expect nothing less than him being a multi-time All-Star.
The fact that we're sitting here on draft night putting Acuff in that group of guards says everything you need to know. And he may have truly had the single most offensively impressive season from any Cal guard we've seen in a very long time. Was, what's your reaction here?
Yeah, I mean, this is an easy A. Like, exactly what Sacramento was hoping for when the draft order came out. Like you said, one of the best offensive seasons I've seen from a guard. I mean, I just love how good he is with the ball in his hands. Look at these quick, violent dribbles. Has that wrong foot finish. He's very crafty around the lane. Of course, a big-time shot maker, and just a guy who could score from 3 levels. But I was also very impressed with the way he was able to run offense. Had a very good assist-to-turnover ratio. Not much debate here on where he's going to slide into the lineup. He's going to get reps right away. He's going to work on his decision-making, again, running offense, balancing his own scoring with getting guys involved. When he was at IMG, this was a score. In fact, I don't think any player in the draft turned me more than Acuff did this season at Arkansas. So a good spot for him. They, by the way, his camp wanted him to be here, wanted him to be in a place like Sacramento where he could run the show.
Cart, much like you in your men's league, my questions are not on the offensive end with Darius Acuff. My questions are you bringing anything on the defensive end? Can we expect Darius Acuff to give the Kings anything on the defensive side of the basketball?
Listen, I don't think he's going to challenge for any all-defensive teams or anything like that, but I think that you can develop that, right? I think that, you know, at Arkansas, he had such a heavy offensive load that I think he kind of preserved himself on the defensive end a little bit. And I think if he has the tools, I like the plus wingspan that he has. He's also very stocky, like Boogie pointed out. I think that he can be at least sufficient enough on that end of the floor where he'll be fine.
Boogie, I couldn't help but notice as Was was giving us the lineup breakdown. It's a pretty amazing guard that we were just sliding Acuff right in over the top of in Westbrook there. Do you think this is going to be a day one, hand him the keys and get out of the way situation?
I absolutely do. Like I said, this has been speculating the whole, process as far as coming up into the draft. I actually hope the Kings stick around with Russ so he can be that mentor for Darius Acuff. I think that's a great veteran for him. Kind of teach him the ropes, help, transition him in as far as being a pro. But I definitely think they hand the keys over. That would be the smart move. Let him. This is a talent that you kind of, put in the fire and let him learn through the fire. I think he'll come out on top. But I definitely think that you keep Russ and let him be that mentor. I don't think it's a better guy for the job.
What's the ceiling offensively for Acuff, Cart?
I mean, like I said, when he got picked, I think he can be an all-star level guard, and I think he can be a 1A type of guy. I know we talked about it offline a little bit, G. There are some Dame Lillard things there with him. I think he can develop into that type of guard, and that's what the Kings need as long as they do right by him. You got another shot. I think you can make this right.
Got another shot.
They got another shot. They've had shots, and they can make this right.
Listen, shots are not a bad thing, but at the same time, how many missed shots in a row until we notice the pattern, right?
You miss every shot you don't take.
That's very true.
Get it up.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Keep shooting.
That's very true. Well, look, I think Acuff at 7 is a pretty historically special value. This is why we love the top of this draft, right, guys? I mean, we're sitting here talking about 7 guys that I think legitimately have face of the franchise potential. Acuff may be the most recent taken, but I'm not sure we're even necessarily done. I mean, none of the Michigan guys have come off the board yet. Cart, we've got Kingston, Flemings still, Brayden, Burries at the top of Wass's board right now.
Yeah, and by the way, I've heard a lot of ties, Burries to Atlanta. Atlanta has been in a lot of trade rumors. Multiple teams telling me before this draft that Atlanta has been very active talking to other teams. If they couldn't get one of those top point guards, let's see if they go with a guy like Flemings. They did just sign McCollum to a 1-year extension.
All right, it'll be interesting to see. And by the way, the chat gives this an A. Guys, I think every pick is getting an A right now from Wass from the chat. We haven't seen any surprises.
Yeah, then you got a lot of talented guards.
It's a good draft. I feel like the most leading grader. I can't wait to throw out my first C. I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting for somebody to make that weird pick that's 24 on everyone's board.
Yeah, Was, call your shot. What should we be keeping an eye on here? Where does the first surprise of the draft happen?
I mean, this is right now. I mean, I've been told Burries. Let's go to the big board, actually, now I'm thinking about it, right? So we got Burries at 7, Flemings. By the way, they're so close, it might come down to need. And Flemings actually probably fits a better need. Nikhil Alexander-Walker, more of a 2-guard. Burries definitely a 2-guard. Flemings fits what they need. I like Okorie. I think he's totally underrated. The biggest need for Atlanta might be Aday, who could play center. Right now they have Okongwu, who's 6'9", protecting their paint. So it'll be interesting to see if they go best player available or if they really take roster needs into the equation here at number 8.
So, Boogie, we talked a little bit pre-draft. We had the big 4, and then we had this big run of guards. Then we've got some big men kind of in the late lottery, middle of the first round projections here. As a big man yourself, do you have any that you are particularly fond of in this class?
Well, my favorite was obviously Caleb Wilson, who, left early. And I got a later pick as far as Trayvon Brazile. I don't think he'll be a guy that goes first in the first round, but this is a kid that I kind of watched develop over the years from afar. Super versatile, can play all over the floor. An athletic freak, can shoot the ball, can protect the rim. Everything you're looking for in the modern day game as a big. Can guard multiple positions, can play multiple positions. So I think he'll be a late steal in the draft, actually. I think he'll be a multi-year pro, a 10-plus year pro. I think he has all the intangibles to do that, so I'm a huge fan of him. I know that's a little later in the draft, but I think that's a kid that'll be a steal in this draft.
All right, the pick is in for the Atlanta Hawks at 8. Let's see what they do. And once again, chalky enough, it's Kingston, Flemings, a pretty special year at Houston. Kelvin Sampson's most talented guard that he has had, his highest pick in quite a few years here. But like Keaton Wagler, some explosive scoring performances from Flemings in his 1 year in college, Cart.
Yeah, extremely quick guard. And I also think you don't want to skip over the fact that this is a freshman that came in and started right away for Kelvin Sampson. Kelvin Sampson doesn't just start freshman. He defended at a high level. He played the game extremely hard. He loves to get to that mid-range, as you see right now. He really elevates, gets into an explosion to it. I also think he has the ability to get downhill and get at the rim and finish over people. So, I think that Jalen Johnson took a step this year for the Hawks, and now this is another young piece to kind of add into the fold.
Boogie, there's absolutely the Kentucky guards connotation. I think Houston is one of those programs, too. What does getting a Houston guard like this at 8 for the Hawks mean to you?
I think it's great. I'm a huge fan of Sampson and his, how he runs his squads. I was a fan of this kid, too. I watched him drop a 40 ball live, so I know this kid can really get active. I think he's an explosive guard that can get to the rim at will. Bigger guard, I think that's a perfect fit next to Jalen Johnson, who's kind of more of that point forward. He's also a guard that can knock down shots from the outside, so that complements that point forward role kind of well. I think this was a good pick for Atlanta. I think it complements what they have going on really well. Be a nice fit next to Alexander Walker, and they can kind of play off one another. So great pick for Atlanta, in my opinion.
All right, Was, what do you think here?
Yeah, I mean, these teams are nailing it so far. Nobody doing anything crazy or out of the box. This is another A in the conversation for best prospect on the board. And I love this kid, not just what he did, but off the floor. Listen to him interview, super mature, and it really shows in his game. I compare him to Darryn Fox. Again, like as you said before, he loves that mid-range game. Look how he kind of gets his feet squared up, and the elevation that he gets on those mid-range shots, hitting them contested. He doesn't shoot a lot of threes, and I think NBA teams are going to want to see a little bit more of that. But again, his shot making is good enough, and he's a very good decision maker running offense. He might be the most complete of all the guards when you take into account decision making, shot making, rim pressure, and defensive discipline. The question is he going to start right away? When you sign McCollum, I think they probably had in mind that they were going to take a point guard, and maybe they're going to let Flemings hang around on the bench for a year and learn under McCollum, who's going to be an excellent mentor, one of the top guys in the league at that. So I wouldn't be surprised if they keep their lineup the same. Atlanta's trying to make a push into the playoffs, and Flemings will eventually take over from McCollum. But it's just a very well-rounded player, well-rounded individual. Everybody's going to love him in Atlanta.
Chat graded this one an A. I'm even seeing next Trae Young in the chat. Was, do you like that comp?
I mean, they're totally different players, but he might be the next Trae Young in terms of he'll spend the next 5 or 6 years there and build the culture, and their identity will revolve around him once he takes over from McCollum.
All right, let's go live to Jake Fisher in the Fishbowl next. Fish, do you have anything to add for us here on the Hawks?
What's up, guys? There was a ton of smoke about Atlanta being the first spot on the board for a big man, and they were connected a lot to Aday. But I never thought they were going big. Atlanta clearly wanted to prioritize finding a downhill creator, ball handler, playmaker to pair next to Jalen Johnson. They were here in New York for the first round series. That was their big weakness, and I always thought they were going to happily take which guy was left of these 4 guards, but I do believe that Flemings was their favorite. So even though he went 4th, I think he was the Hawks' #1 guard on their board internally of this crop of playmakers.
All right, thank you as always, Fish. Flemings has been a guy that sort of has fallen a little bit behind the hype of the other 3 guards taken before him. But I think you can argue there may be less red flags with him. With Wagler, it's the athleticism. With Brown, it could be injury concerns. Acuff, certainly you could point to defensive concerns. Flemings may be the most well-rounded at the end of the day. We'll come back and see how his career begins. But as we look to the Dallas Mavericks next, on the clock at 9, it's been all chalk 1 through 8. Car, can I get selfish for a moment?
Please get selfish.
Look, I'm a Michigan fan, guys. I'm looking at 3 projected lottery picks from the Michigan Wolverines. Is it too early for me to start asking for my guys to come off the board, Was?
I think this is a decent spot. I've heard, I got a couple texts that Mara would be the guy at number 9 if they did go with the Dusty May guy. Obviously, some questions about fit with Derek Lively there. Also, questions about Lively's health. But we've seen Mike Schmitz, double up on big guys. He did it with Donovan Clingham and Yang last year. Listen, they're both all 3 of those guys could be in the conversation for best prospect available. I would probably wait further on Yax, but Morez and Aday, sure, they could definitely go here.
Cart, from an entertainment perspective, we're saying it's all chalk. We're begging for a surprise. I know one guy who likes a surprise. It's Dusty May, new head coach of the Dallas Mavericks, who kind of blindsided all Michigan fans this week with the news that he was taking over. Look, does this matter? In an NBA draft setting, Boogie, you're saying yes?
Absolutely, and I wouldn't be surprised if a Michigan guy gets taken right now. It makes sense. This is a brand new coach to the league. He'll be comfortable with one of his guys that kind of know his system, the way he coaches and things of that nature. And there you go.
And there you have it. And gentlemen, we may have just spoke this into existence, but I'll tell you right now on behalf of Michigan fans, I don't think any of us expected Morez Johnson to be the first of the 3 that comes off the board tonight. But allow me to speak on behalf of my guy. I love this. This guy's DNA is toughness. It is winning. It is unselfishness. I think he is the most defensively versatile big in this entire draft. And I think this is a culture setter for Dusty May immediately after taking this Mavs job.
Yeah, I think Morez Johnson is a guy that can guard 1 through 5. And I know that gets thrown out there a lot, but I truly think at the next level he can guard all positions. And also I think he's a guy that he's versatile. And, we saw him next to Yaxel last year, and Morez was kind of like his bodyguard a little bit, right? He made sure he was safe. He made sure he held everything down. Cooper Flagg's there at Dallas right now. I think you got a young front court there that can defensively be very, very versatile. I didn't expect him to be the first Michigan player selected. I am a little bit shocked there, but I love Morez's game, and the motor is some sensational.
Boogie, we did joke watching Michigan this year. They would send Morez to just follow Yaxel Lendeborg's every move, almost as his bodyguard, his protector physically. Do you think he could serve a similar role for Cooper Flagg in Dallas?
Absolutely. And you speak on the versatility defensively. I think that's a plus, putting him next to Cooper Flagg. He'll be brought in to be that, that defensive anchor, that using that versatility to guard multiple spots on the floor and just be that complementary piece to that franchise guy in Cooper Flagg. So, like I said, I think this is a comfortable pick for May being that brand new coach with Dallas. This is a guy he's familiar with, and vice versa. When it comes to putting in his system in place, I think this is a guy that'll flow really smoothly in, and it just makes sense. It's a comfortable pick. Didn't think he would go this early, but overall, still a very comfortable pick.
It's been all A's thus far. Let's get Was involved. Was, are you surprised?
I am surprised. In fact, I got texts from a whole bunch of different people before of all different names, and he was not one of them. Listen, I like Morez Johnson. I think it's a little bit of a reach here. This is going to be my first B on the board, and you can't go wrong with him. He's got that high floor. You know what he's going to give you. And I love the fit with Dallas. And if you're drafting for fit, fine. You want to get a tough guy next to Cooper Flagg by Derek Lively. You know he's going to play to his strengths as that defensive guy, the finisher. I love this clip here that really illustrates, what he could be defensively with how he can erase shots. Doesn't give up any ground. Has that long wingspan. I think it was maybe close to 7'5" at the NBA Combine. And so, listen, we know what he's going to give you, and he's going to give you that toughness. And so, let's see, is he going to find a place to start here? Yeah, maybe they put him in and have him start over PJ. Again, I wish there was, at this early in the draft, I wish you found a guy with a little more offensive juice. I really like Brayden Burries also. Brayden Burries, also a very good fit at the two-guard spot, but they opted for Johnson. I'm sure Dusty May had something to do with it. A very safe pick. I just think there were a couple guys on the board with higher ceilings, with a little bit more offensive versatility and skill.
It's a very different game in the NBA, of course, than it is in college, but we did see Morez Johnson as the foundational centerpiece to the switch-everything defense. A lot of big bodies on that Mavs roster. Fish in the fishbowl. What do you got for us?
There were plenty of questions of if Dusty May was going to have influence over this pick. The Mavericks, along with the Hawks, flew to Memphis this past weekend to go work out Nate Ament. And that left a lot of teams picking behind Dallas, thinking that Tennessee's swingman was going to be the choice. Clearly a smokescreen. Clearly Dusty May had some level of influence here. And it's going to be a matter now of if Dallas can be moving up from number 30. They are also another team, like we talked about with Memphis at the top, that's looking to rise back up the draft board with their second first-round pick.
Cart, smoke screens, cutthroat moves. Dusty May, really? Is this on brand for you?
It feels on brand. I think one thing that makes sense about this pick, I feel like a lot of NBA coaches are asking the camps, the people around them, the college coaches, like, what is this player? Dusty May saw it up close all last year. He knows what he's getting in Morez Johnson. So I'm surprised, but at the same time, I think Dusty's getting who he wants here.
And listen, 2 Brad Underwood products in the top 9 of an NBA draft. I never thought I'd see the day, Cart. You got to love it. All right, Milwaukee next on the clock at 10. Guys, the story of the sport was the Giannis Antetokounmpo trade just last night. Headed to Miami, a whole new era for the Bucks. Let's just touch base on the trade for a moment. Boogie, what's your reaction to a new home for Giannis?
I'm happy it's done. It was a long wait to get to this point, so I'm more relieved that it's done. I do other shows. This is the main topic every morning, so glad it's done. Obviously, Miami got the start that they wanted. This is a great foundational piece. First ballot Hall of Famer. Can't deny any of that. I look forward to Miami doing, more moves. As of where they are right now as a team, I don't think they're quite there yet, which is okay. This is still early on. We still got a lot of off-season to go. So still got to go through free agency, where I think they'll be very, very active, especially when it comes to adding veteran pieces. So, I'm glad it's done. I think Giannis is happy. I'm even happier for my guy Bobby Portis, who's a great complimentary piece to Giannis. He always has been. But I look forward to this season for Miami. I want to see how they shape out.
Your guy Bobby going to enjoy Miami a little bit?
I think they're going to both enjoy Miami. Leaving that cold, going to the sunny beach, I think that's a plus for anybody.
All right, if you were Milwaukee, you saw the package they just got from Miami. Certainly a new era. Prospects that you could see. Khalil Ware, a guy a lot of people like. Jaquez, and obviously Tyler Hero. There was also the big elephant in the room that was Jaylen Brown. If you're the Bucks, Boogie, would you have rather gone after Jaylen Brown, or would you have taken this package from Miami?
I think they took the right deal as far as, gaining all the picks, getting the young assets at the same time. Jaylen Brown just doesn't make sense for a team that's trying to go into a full rebuild. And when it comes to teams kind of going to that half build, where you get a veteran piece, but you want to go, it doesn't necessarily work out in that way. So I think they made the right decision. Full rebuild, get as much young talent, as many assets you can get, and you start from there.
All right, well, let's see what the Bucks do. And at 10, they select Brayden Burries. This was the best available on Wass's big board. The Arizona product helped Tommy Lloyd to his first Final Four in his 1 year at college. Of all the guards that we have seen come off the board here, Burries the one arguably most comfortable off the ball, a true combo guard, possibly just a true two in the league. Karts, what's your reaction here?
I mean, I love the pick for the Bucks. I think that, like Boogie mentioned, they are going into a full rebuild. They don't have 1 foot in. They're just going to go all in on it. And Brayden Burries, I think, started off a little bit slow with Arizona, but once he got it going, he was one of the best players on one of the best teams in the country. And I like that he can play both guard positions. I think there's some playmaking stuff there that maybe he didn't get to do next to Jayden Bradley last year, that maybe he can show this year. But I really love the scoring package and the versatility from him. I like this pick from the Bucks.
Multiple accolades there, all Big 12 first team and freshmen, all Big 12, sharing a backcourt with the Big 12 Player of the Year in Jayden Bradley, who, by the way, won that award over A.J. Dybantsa. Was, you had this as the best available. What do you give this?
Yeah, this is, listen, I'm glad that they took this the best guy and they weren't worried about fit. The roster is, kind of a mess right now in terms of organization. Just keep stockpiling assets. This was the most valuable one on the board to me. He reminds me a lot of Derek White. 2-guard, tough defensively with his physical tools, a downhill guy, has that mid-range game, he's got some three-point range. Not the most creative guy, but he can get you 15, 20 points without using a lot of dribbles. And I just really like his efficiency. Like you said, plays off the ball, doesn't need a lot of ball screens or isolation. He just is a tough shot maker, and just a good overall solid two-way player. Now the question is, what happens? How does he fit into this lineup? What does this lineup even look like? I think you got to give him some minutes right away. I mean, Kuzma's a nice guy to have as a veteran mentor, but when you're starting from scratch here, let these guys play through mistakes. Give him the reps. I don't think it matters 2 or 3. Maybe even put Hero at the 1 and Burries at the 2, mix and match here. But just a very complete 2-guard who can defend his position and a very mature type of player.
All right, let's go straight to Fish. Fish, what do you got for us here?
What's up, guys? Brayden Burries, number 10. He wanted to go 9 to Dallas or 11 to Golden State. I'm sure he'll be happy to be in Milwaukee and start his career. But if it wasn't number 5 with the Clippers, Burries wanted to find his way to Dallas. And then if it wasn't Dallas, he wanted to go to the Golden State. So he had his range correct. But now this is going to put the Warriors in an interesting position at number 11.
Fascinating. All right, thanks as always for the intel, Fish. All right, Boogie, I want to touch on that exact point as Fish alludes to maybe trying to steer to a certain situation. When I think of Burries' 1 year at Arizona, that was one of the more win-now rosters in college basketball. One of the best things about his game was that he was so sacrificial in nature. He was willing to play a role amidst a loaded front court in the Big 12 Player of the Year. Now you look at him in a landing spot where I think he's going to have a chance to almost be the face of the franchise if all goes well. Not to put too much on his plate just right away, but I don't know. Is this ringing any bells? Because obviously at Kentucky, you're on a loaded team, and suddenly you're the face of the franchise. What do you think that adjustment's going to be like for Burries?
It'll be an adjustment. He's joining a team that's now going young, so it'll be a lot of assets, a lot of young talent. I think this is going to be a situation where he has to really figure himself out as far as what his niche will be in the league. You do have talent kind of at that guard position. Him being this combo guard, Wise kind of mentioned earlier that, he could see him slide into that starting 5. Me, I think he's more of bench depth. You look at Ryan Rollins, who had a very good season this past year. You bring in Tyler Hero, who's gonna probably be handed the keys right away. And depending on what happens with Kyle Kuzma moving forward, that's kind of still in the air. So as of right now, I see him as a depth piece as far as a young asset and just another part of this rebuild.
All right, that makes this decision at 11 for the Golden State Warriors very interesting. Cart, what would you do if you were the Warriors here?
Listen, I still got Steph Curry on the team, obviously. Maybe on the backside, but still one of the best players in the league. I think they need to bulk that front court up a little bit. A lot of games last year with Quinn Post, who I think was very, very okay at that spot, but I think they need a little bit of a punch of star power there. There are some good big men on the board. Maybe they go Mara here, did a real good job passing. I think that could work well in that Steve Kerr offense.
All right, we have a lot of dubs in the chat right now. Warriors fans very active. You love to see that in the live show. I think Fish has a hit here. Fish, what can you share with us?
So the Golden State Warriors, I've been told from multiple sources, are actively fielding trade offers here. We've got the two Michigan guys, not named Morez Johnson Jr., Yaxel Lendeborg and Aday Mara, who have had a lot of interest from Golden State, from OKC, and from Charlotte. So we're waiting to see if Golden State is going to be able to shake an offer free. I think they'd be happy to select one of those guys if they do slide down the board a bit. But again, Brayden Burries, I do believe, was the Warriors' #1 prospect on their board of players they thought would be available at this selection. So him going to Milwaukee opens up really, I think, our first legitimate trade opportunity here in the 2026 NBA draft.
Interesting. All right, thanks, Fish. This may be where we finally get some chaos. All right, he mentioned both the Michigan guys. Obviously, I'm well familiar with both Mara and Yaxel. I want to talk about Yaxel for a moment here because there were rumors that if Yaxel goes in the lottery, it will be to the Golden State Warriors at 11. If it's not at this pick, then we could potentially see him fall. Look, he does some things at his frame that cannot be replicated by anybody but Dybantsa in this draft. At the same time, when you are still trying to ride out the late stages of Steph Curry's career, when there are rumors that maybe even LeBron James could be looking at the Golden State Warriors, trying to fit Yaxel Lendeborg into that mix feels interesting to me, Cart. How do you think that would go?
I think this is the one part of the draft where maybe the age comes in Yaxel's favor. Like, he's a guy that you can expect to come in and play right away. He is going to be a 25-year-old, 24-year-old rookie. I think you want to take advantage of these last couple, limelight years you have of Steph Curry, and Yaxel's a player that comes in right away, and though he will be a rookie, he'll be an older rookie, which I think will help him in this situation.
Boogie, with the Warriors' kind of veteran core still, should they be focused on a win-now player here? Should they not be focused on timelines at all?
I would absolutely believe they should focus on win-now players. With the extension of Steve Kerr, obviously the Steph Curry being in the later years of his career, we don't know how much longer he's going to play this game. And I believe the timeline is matched up as far as what Steve Kerr, contract is. So that being said, obviously you will want a win-now player to go with that group. They're in championship or bust mode. Obviously you want to maximize the later years of his career in Steph Curry. So, but if they don't decide to go that veteran route, the only player to me that kind of makes sense is Mar from Michigan. The versatile big. He's a rim protector. He can really pass the ball, can somewhat shoot the ball as well. I think he'll fit perfect in that Warriors system. They need as much size. That's something that's always kind of been the Warriors' negative, is not having enough size. So you bring him in at 7'4", I think that fills that void right away. But outside of that, if it's not him, I think you go the veteran route.
Carl, I was going to ask you, too, out of the two Michigan bigs, if the Warriors do settle on a front court player here, who do you think fits better with what they've got?
I think I agree with Boogie with Mara, to be honest with you. I think that injection of height, and also the thing that's looming right now is Wemby's taking over the league. A 7-footer wouldn't be bad to have.
Oh.
All right, it's Yaxel Lendeborg. It is not Aday Mara. Maybe more Mara in a moment. But Yaxel, the Big Ten Player of the Year on the national champions, is off the board to the Golden State Warriors. As I mentioned, guys, this had been a rumor, and there were concerns he would fall in this draft if he was not taken by the Warriors here at 11. Ultimately, those concerns don't come to fruition. Guys, I love this pick. We'll see what they do in free agency, but Yaxel's a beloved teammate, a guy that really became this infectious energy tone setter for Michigan, and a guy who flat out at his best, can do things that only the top 4 players in this draft can do. I'm excited to see how he pairs with Steph Curry card.
Yeah, I am too. And I think the one thing that works in Yaxel's advantage here too is that he played with so many good players at Michigan that at times he would take a backseat. He would let Morez go. He would let Mar go. He would even let Elliot Cadeau go a little bit, which is crazy to say. But I think that'll help when he's playing with players like Steph Curry. He can come in, play a role, and there's not a lot of guys his size with his versatility and his defensive level too. I think it's going to be special for the Warriors.
Boogie, we were talking pre-show a little bit on the maturity point with Yaxel. He's one of the oldest players that's going to be taken in this draft, and yet maturity is one of the question marks on his profile, with a very unorthodox story of how he got to this point in his career. How do you think it's going to work in Golden State?
Oh, it'll work out fine. You know, you under a guy like Draymond Green who takes no crap, the leader, the engine of that team, the tone setter of that team. So being under a guy like Draymond, I think he'll mature quickly. He'll learn a lot. It's actually a good guy to learn from as far as some of the intangibles Yaxel has. They can have some sort of similarities, you know, being able to play that kind of point forward role, being versatile defensively. And at the same time, this kid is just a straight up man child. So I like him in this system. I think it can work out well for both parties. And as far as the immaturity thing, I think he'll mature greatly under this organization.
All right, I have an eye on the chat right now, and somebody said, Draymond gonna sleep, bro. Look, I almost shuddered. He did it to my Michigan guy before, Boogie. Jordan Poole caught the right hook. Is this gonna be a concern card?
No, because I think Yaxel's too goofy, to be honest with you. He'd be like, ooh, he's going to punch me. Like, he's just a goofy kid. That's really what goofy 25-year-old kid that is. But he's just a goofball.
The chat is loving this. We're also getting Yaxel's the next Giannis. Boogie, your thoughts?
The next Giannis?
The next Giannis.
Yeah, that's a one-on-one, man. We just can't throw those type of things out. Does he probably have some similarities? Yes, but let's put respect on that legend. That's
respect the greats. We have to. All right, Was, we made you wait on this one. What do you think?
Listen, history says don't take a 23-year-old in the lottery, and I'm going to side with history here. I'm going to give this a B. Not that that's a terrible grade. I had a source tell me over the weekend that the Golden State Warriors were going to take Yaxel with the same reason what you guys just said. They want to capitalize on this last window that they have there, and he is considered an NBA-ready guy. He reminds me a lot of Aaron Gordon, obviously not as much athletic pop, but that archetype of a forward who's going to give you a little bit of everything, not too much of one thing. This is where in the open floor you see a little bit more of the explosiveness than you do in the half court. I love that at his size he can handle the ball. He'll give you a couple assists per game. Aaron Gordon, that's the type of guy I think he has to be if he is going to justify being the 11th pick in the draft. He's going to be a Swiss Army knife type of guy. And so let's see, how does he fit in this lineup? And, maybe you could slide him in. Obviously, we don't have – I guess you could slide him in for Santos right here if you do want to start him. And Golden State's the perfect place for him, right? He can play the same role he played at UAB, the same role he played at Michigan, kind of just do a little bit of everything. You don't have to be a big-time shot creator. Hopefully he continues to make strides with his spot-up three ball, which he has every single year, becoming capable enough as a spot-up three-point shooter. But, yeah, this is a Swiss Army knife, and I understand why Golden State went for him. But, by the way, Aday Mara still on the board, and I think he is a little bit more of an interesting prospect.
Yeah, maybe we'll talk Mara next. I have a good feeling on that. First, let's go to Fish. Fish, what do you got?
So, again, the trade talk here, I think, was focused on trying to get Oklahoma City or Charlotte to move up for Mara. We're definitely expecting him to be in play in these next couple of picks. But I want to pour some cold water. I saw a lot of noise online about the Warriors potentially trading this pick for Trey Murphy. I don't think that was ever in play here. The Warriors don't really even have the salary that makes sense to send out to match Trey Murphy. They've liked him, but I think the second Jonathan Kuminga went to Atlanta, that took the Trey Murphy dream out of reality for Golden State.
All right, thank you, Fish. Okay, Mara was the other name that we keep mentioning here. Cart, you alluded to the idea of this quote-unquote Wemby stopper that everyone is searching for. If there was one team in this league that may be most interested in a Wemby stopper right now, it might be the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are next on the clock. I'm matchmaking right now, Boogie, but is this as simple as it sounds?
I don't think this kid would appreciate you giving him that title right now. That's a tough hill to climb. Wemby is him for a reason. That's a nightmare matchup for whoever you decide to put on your roster. So, will it help as far as depth with their big man position? Yes, maybe so, but I don't think they're necessarily drafting this kid with the title of being the Wemby stopper. And I wouldn't want that title either.
I just don't think there is a Wemby stopper, to be honest with you. There just isn't one. I mean, he's shaped like Wemby, I'll say that, but I don't think there's such thing as a Wemby stopper, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think that's very, very real, to be honest, guys.
It's one of them ones.
But yet, right, there's only so many that size-shaped human beings on the planet, right?
100%.
So you could see the vision if this is where Oklahoma City goes next. Why should we expect this from Oklahoma City? What would you do if you were on the clock right now?
I think Mara's got to be the guy, and I think he gives them depth at that center position. But when you look who else is on the board, they have so many guards, there's not much room. I'd say Cameron Carr would be a guy who could fit there, but yeah, I think Mara is just too unique. By the way, the Wemby stopper is silly because he can't really guard around the perimeter that much. And Wemby, what separates him from guys his size is his ball handling and three-point shooting.
Yeah, it's a very good point on the perimeter drop coverage of Mara. But hey, we nailed it, guys. The pick is in. The Oklahoma City Thunder have selected Aday Mara. This is the third Michigan Wolverine off the board in the first 12 picks. And Cart, while I victory lap next to you on the blue couch in the Bleacher Report studios, please allow me to point out that this was a pretty generational college basketball team. And for good reason, I think. I think all three of these guys are going to be ready at the next level immediately, regardless of if it looks like a Wemby stopper or not. This is a guy who's ready to play real minutes in the league right now.
Yeah, I just think the rich get richer in this case. I mean, OKC is still very well equipped to win championships, obviously with SGA and other players they have in the fall. I just think Mara brings another aspect to that team. And, with Chet Holmgren, that forms, I think, a really good front court depth for the team. They also have Isaiah Hartenstein as well. I think it's just a very talented team, adding a very talented kid who is 7'4". It's really a embarrassment of riches for them at this point, I feel like.
At his size, the intriguing things with Mara are the passing and the ball skills that you just don't see from someone his size. Boogie, I mean, that was also the scout on you, right? You're doing guard things in a non-guard shaped human being. That's the whole appeal here with Mara. How do you think that translates?
I don't think that's what they drafted him for. You have a pretty established group with the OKC Thunder. You have the reigning MVP and Shea. You have a lot of veteran pieces. You got an all-star in Chet. Like I said, I think this is a depth move. They have to add as much talent as they can considering what they have going on. And also kind of battling with that apron. So I think this was great depth for them. I think they're in a situation as far as figuring out Hartenstein as well, moving forward. So I think this is a safe pick for them. They're adding depth, they're adding talent. Any move Sam Presti makes, I'm a fan of. I don't know the guy well, but he has my trust. So I don't think he can do anything wrong. So I'm okay with this pick.
Yeah, I don't think we can doubt Sam Presti's resume at this point. The chat is buying into the Wemby stopper for what it's worth. Look, Boogie's going to keep telling us to calm down if I keep saying that term. Was, Mara, 12, what do you think?
I mean, this is getting ridiculous at this point. Another A. I feel like every time they pick, they're going to get an A. This is the best prospect available. This is a guy that they could use as somebody who just gives them a different, element of defense. Roy Hibbert is a guy who, it's hard to find a comparison for a guy who's 7'3" in socks. But in terms of what they're going to do on the floor, I mean, the way, like we talked about his drop coverage, right? He never gets too far away from the basket, but he almost totally controls this defensive possession as you see him here kind of switching on and reading the defense and moving his feet a little bit and keeping guys from turning the corner, and then he recovers back to make the block. I mean, he touched a lot of different spots on the floor there, and so when we take a look at how he's going to fit with Oklahoma City Thunder, of course, he's not going to start. But, to be able to bring a 7'3" guy off the bench who has a career 12% block percentage in college, who has an easy basket when he doesn't even have to jump, who is a passer like he is, and by the way, at that size, with his IQ, he's got such a high passing point. You can run offense through him away from the basket. That can change your offensive look a little bit. So just a very unique type of guy to just be able to throw off your bench.
I feel like he's landed in a spot that honestly is very healthy for him because he's a player with such a high ceiling and also some very real flaws. And going to a situation like Oklahoma City, you know, if he doesn't work out, there's not really pressure on him, right? They're the best team in the league on paper. It kind of reminds me of what he stepped into in Ann Arbor that ended up being so healthy for him, Cart.
Yeah, and I just think that for him too, you know, they're really not going to ask him to do anything crazy for them. They already have a very talented team. I know that Chet didn't have the best playoffs, but at the same time, he was an All-NBA big. He was an all-star. That's the type of player that he can be. I think Mara's going to be in a great situation. And like I said, I sound like a broken record, but I just can't believe OKC just keeps stacking all these good basketball players year after year.
All right, turning the page next, 13th here. It is technically the Miami Heat that are on the clock. However, reminder, this is the pick that will end up with the Milwaukee Bucks as part of that Giannis trade last night. So, if you are Milwaukee looking for some additional talent to now add to Brayden, Burries, and everything you have brought in from this deal, where are you looking next, Boogie?
I mean, when it comes to Milwaukee and where they are now, I think it's about, you know, just picking up as much talent as you can, continuing to be on the path to this rebuild. So talent is important. So, I mean, you think of guys like Nate Ament, you know, he's kind of that combo forward, a lot of size, can do a lot of different things on the floor, and also kind of has possibly that superstar potential. So you don't know what he could possibly turn into, so I think that could be a good move. And obviously the small forward from Baylor, super athletic Carr, I think he'll be a good fit there as well. They just took the combo guard, so you kind of think and fit. When it comes to fit, I think he'll be a my thoughts.
Kuzma?
No, my guard.
Burries?
Guard from Miami.
Hero.
Oh, yeah.
Hero. Tyler Hero. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Oh,
you put him next to Tyler Hero, it makes sense. So as of right now, I just think it's about taking the best talent available and continue this rebuild out.
Boogie, how dare you not remember Jack Harlow's song, Tyler Hero? I can't believe it. That's insane.
Yeah. I like the Nate Ament pick, though, here. I mean, if you go, like Boogie said, if you're going to rebuild, go ahead and go full rebuild. I think people feel differently about what Nate Ament could possibly be, but if he does end up being what people think his ceiling could be, then you got a great centerpiece to what is a rebuilding process.
Yeah, I mean, pre-draft, we kind of had this conversation. It feels like Ament is one of those guys that there are very split opinions on. You either love him or you see crash out potential. And oddly enough, I feel like this would be a good place to take a swing like that with Milwaukee entering a new era, right?
Yeah, I think, like Boogie said, if you're going to get into a full rebuild, I think this is a good spot to take a swing. You got Brayden, Burries, who I like at the combo guard with the first pick. So just go ahead and take a swing here. You lose a player like Giannis, who's very versatile at his size. Maybe Nate Ament could possibly get somewhere even close to that if he hits 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, what was your comp? You had a Ament comp before the show, Boogie.
I think his floor is Jared Jeffries, and I think his ceiling could be a Lamar Odom type player. So this is a guy, like I said, superstar potential. I think what organization and what situation he goes to is important as far as his development. And I think he needs as much, opportunity as possible to fully reach his potential. That's why I think, Milwaukee would be a good spot for him.
I like those comps a lot better than Kevin Durant, Cart.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah, we got to stop with the Kevin Durant.
Not every 6'10"
Every
shooter is
6'10" guy
Durant.
with a jumper is Kevin. Stop. It's one Kevin Durant, man.
You did this, Rick Barnes.
It kind of killed our bit. Cart and I were talking pre-show. We were just going to compare every single big man in this draft to you, Boogie. So.
Nah.
Can't do it.
In all the years I've been doing this, I don't think I've ever compared anybody to Boogie. I don't think I've done that one time. Isn't that crazy?
I don't know how I feel about that yet.
That makes you 1-1.
Oh, good Lord. Was, what would you do here on behalf of Milwaukee? How do you see it?
Well, you look at my big board here. I love Okorie. By the way, that's not a consensus. I don't know I haven't talked to many scouts who like him as much as I do. But like we were talking about before, you don't draft for fit. By the way, Nate Ament is in the conversation for best prospect available. But again, they're just looking to stockpile assets. Take the best player available, and then you sort everything out later. But Carr would make sense. I know that there was interest in Ament. And actually, his people told me that his floor would be 10 to Milwaukee, which, by the way, everybody's people are never right. So when you listen to the agents and the managers and stuff like that. But I wouldn't be surprised if Ament is a pick here or Kareem Lopez or Labaron Philon.
That's exact.
The only question is they did take Burries.
Yes.
But Philon is maybe is the best creator on the board here. And Burries was not a creator, right? He's an off-ball guy. And I think Milwaukee could really use somebody who can get somebody into their offense, create easy shots, not just for himself, but set up teammates. He had a very high assist percentage this year.
I would like to see Labaron. If Miami was keeping this pick, I think he would be perfect for Miami.
Hopefully.
All right, well, the pick is in. Let's see who it is. Okay, we're kind of on the money with this. Nate Ament. Yeah, nice dap. Nate Ament. This is going to the Bucks. You see the Heat logo on screen right now. This is part of the Giannis trade. Nate Ament to Milwaukee. You guys like this?
Yeah. I do. I think, like I said, I think it's about gaining as much talent as you can through the rebuild. This kid has all the potential to be a superstar in this league. You know, you see the Kevin Durant comparisons. I don't like that, but the fact that he's even compared to a star like that lets you know he has a lot of talent. So I think development will be very important for him. Hopefully he's taken well care of with Milwaukee. We've seen what they've done with the project and Giannis and what he turned into. So this kid going there, this could be really good for him moving forward.
That's also the 17th player that Rick Barnes has compared to Kevin Durant since he coached Kevin Durant at Carton.
Listen, when you recruit a player like Kevin Durant, you're going to keep on trying to promise people you can turn them into Kevin Durant. I like the sales pitch.
I get it. What was that, 05, 04? It's been a while.
Well, Kevin Durant was Kevin Durant before he met Rick Barnes, so let's not forget that point.
That's a good point.
Rick Barnes did not make Kevin Durant Kevin Durant.
Extremely good point. All right, Was, what do you got here?
I mean, let's give it a B+. Again, like at this point in the draft, you're not going to be too critical. He's a very interesting idea player. Like everybody wants that 6'10" wing that has three-point range, that could put the ball down, that could hopefully guard a couple positions. This particular season, he shot below 40% from the field. When you're that big, you know, that's a little bit problematic. He was one of the worst finishers of anybody in the draft, but obviously very young and still very productive. And you can use him in a lot of different ways, right? I like to see him off the ball. He was much better as a movement shooter than I expected him to be. And so, listen, he's going to go to the Milwaukee Bucks, right? He's not going to go to the Miami Heat. And you know, with this particular lineup, you know, I don't know where he's going to slide in here. Maybe you slot him here and you play him big. That might actually be a better natural position for him in the NBA. I don't know if he's quick enough to beat wings off the dribble at this point. Maybe you use him as a stretch four. He's actually more physical than he looks. So I like the long-term idea of him, but there might be some growing pains early on until he's a more consistent three-point shooter, until he finishes better with contact. But yeah, a guy that size with his skill set, of course, is very enticing.
All right, Cart, I want to ask you to be a fan for a moment. You're good at being a fan. You are a Milwaukee Bucks fan. Giannis Antetokounmpo was your franchise player for the better part of the last 13 years. He's gone. In his place, you are now rooting for Tyler Hero, Khalil Ware, Jaime Jaquez, Brayden Burries, and Nate Ament. Does that get the juices flowing?
I mean, for me, I just feel like this has been in limbo for so long that he's just been teetering with my emotions for so long. And I just looking at every Shams notification, like, when is Giannis going to leave me? So I'm just kind of ready to blow it up at this point. He wanted to move on. I think he moves on. And you know what? I think there's some players they can attach themselves to, get excited about. They watch Giannis become Giannis. Maybe they can watch some of the young guys on this team take next steps in their career for their team.
Listen, it's been a very chalky start to the draft. I don't think we can knock any of these picks. All I would say is this. If I was looking for some draft pop as a fan, I'm not sure that Ament and Burries are the two that feel like they could step up into that void that Giannis is leaving. I'm not sure there were anybody that they could have gotten at 10 and 13 that would have filled that void, but here we are. Let's go live to Fish. Fish, what do you got for us?
I wasn't planning to say this, but it's interesting that Wasp struggled to put Ament into the lineup in Kevin Porter Jr.'s slot. Porter Jr.'s got a player option to figure out by Thursday. And the Bucks, to my understanding, do want to bring KPJ back, but we'll see how that factors in now with all these guards that add. Ultimately, Milwaukee really wanted this number 13 selection. We heard them linked to Nate Ament as early as number 10, so it's not so surprising to me that he is the pick here at 13.
All right, thank you, Fish. Boogie, I want to ask you the same question that Cart and I sort of just spoke on. Do either of these new selections from Milwaukee feel like they could be franchise number ones in the league?
Right now, no. But I said earlier, I think Nate Ament has the potential to be a superstar in this league. It's all about the development. It's all about the plan put in place. And he has all the intangibles to do so. So I would say he has that potential, but outside of that, I wouldn't necessarily say that. And the reason I can also, pick him, he's more similar in size as far as, Giannis and what he brought to that Milwaukee organization. That's not quite what you're getting from Burries. So as far as filling a Giannis void, I think Ament has the potential to, but that's a tall, tall hill to climb.
By the way, before the season, it was the big three, and the number 4 consensus guy in everybody's board was Ament. And then he goes to Tennessee, and we've seen a lot of freshmen at Tennessee not really maximize their potential, whether they're used wrong, whether the offense wasn't right for him. So maybe it was just a down year and a bad system, and we're going to see a better Ament as he makes the jump to the league.
It's a good point, Was. All right, there's also 2 sides to every trade coin here, and Miami walked away with Giannis Antetokounmpo. Bam, Giannis, and a few others. Is that enough for them to be a title contender, Boogie?
Not right now. And I don't think they're done as far as, filling out this roster. One thing that does stand out is they're going to be very, very good defensively. You think about Bam, you think about Giannis, and even Davion Mitchell at that point guard spot. Andrew Wiggins, that super versatile wing, was a very valuable piece of that championship run in Golden State as far as what he did defensively as well. So when you think about them in that aspect, that's a scary thought process as far as matching up. But I do think they still have some voids to fill. Shooting is a big hole that I think they have to fill as well. And maybe some more guard play. And you also have to figure out the Norman Powell situation. I don't think they have the cap to keep him, but, I think he would be a very valuable piece to put next to Giannis. So we'll see how this roster shakes out.
Quick hitter question for you both as we grade this trade. Which one of these 2 outcomes is most likely next season? The Heat, as is, win the NBA championship, or the Milwaukee Bucks are drafting 1st overall in next year's NBA draft?
I might go Milwaukee drafted first.
I'm going to go Heat championship.
Boss, you want to break a tie for us?
Definitely not Heat championship. I can't see it.
Don't leave me out here like that, man.
I can't see it, man.
Okay. All right. There we have it. The Charlotte Hornets are next on the clock. 14th overall in this draft. And the pick is already in as we reset our board a little bit here. Okay, it's Hannes Steinbach, another big man. Little flurry of the front court players as we've gotten into the second 10 picks in this draft. Boogie, how do you feel about this one?
I think they're adding size, which is a much-needed thing. Obviously, this is a guy that has some versatility to his game, can shoot the ball, put the ball on the floor a bit. I think that's a plus, playing next to the group that's already in Charlotte. Looks like he can get up and down the floor a lot. That's also a plus. It's a group that likes to run, get out in the open floor. You got a floor leader in LaMelo Ball who really pushes the pace. So I think this is a good addition for them. I think it's a depth piece. I think their starting 5 is kind of already solid. So good piece. Good pick overall, depth piece. I think they're just adding to what they already have.
Carr, you watched a lot of Steinbach in the Big Ten last year. Pretty miserable Washington season. I'm not sure any of it was Hannes' fault, though.
Yeah, I don't think that Washington wins 6 games last year if they didn't have Hannes Steinbach, honestly. I think he's a great rebounder. He runs the floor really well. Like Boogie pointed out, I think LaMelo's going to love playing with a kid like this. Con Knipple they got last year, he was 2nd in the Rookie of the Year voting, the Cooper flag. I didn't see this coming whatsoever, but as I process it, I think I like the fit in Charlotte for Hannes.
I do too. Was, do you like this fit?
I like the fit, but I don't like drafting for fit. He wasn't my top guy on the board, sure, but he's a fine player. I think he's going to be a nice rotation player. I have a little bit of a problem with a guy who plays center and doesn't really add value defensively, and he did not add value to that Washington defense. He's not a shot blocker. He's not really a switch guy, so he has to be very good offensively. And listen, I get why they did it, right? They did it to fill that center spot. And he gives them a nice offensive upgrade. In fact, I don't think he starts right now with Dybantsa there. I kind of like the way the lineup is as is, and they'll give you some depth. If his 3-ball comes around, different story. And that's going to be a very big swing skill for what his value is going to end up being. But yeah, a very skilled around the basket, rebounds really well, great nose under the offensive glass, better passer than the numbers suggest. But again, I think a lot is riding on that 3-ball because I just don't expect him to be a big rim protector or a defensive presence.
Yeah, defensive concerns feel very fair for Hannes, but this was also the nation's leading rebounder last year. I'm going to throw a hot take at you guys. It was Cam Boozer that got a lot of Kevin Love comps. I think Steinbach could be the Kevin Love in this draft. I really do. I think he's that good on the boards.
Yeah, he rebounds well enough, certainly. I know that he played for a really bad Washington team that, sometimes on the East Coast, those games tipped at like 11 p.m., but he was truly one of the most productive basketball players in college when he stepped on the floor last year.
He also now gets to play with 3 pretty awesome guards right away, from LaMelo to Brandon Miller to Khan. He played with 0 good guards in his one season at Washington Card.
Please respect Zoom Diallo.
I'm not going to do that, I don't think. Boogie, any thoughts?
Like I said, I like him with this group as far as getting up and down. I think rebounding is a plus. He may not be the greatest rim protector, but rebounding is a plus in the league. Creating extra opportunities, being able to, rebound, get those kick-out threes. You got LaMelo Ball, Con Knipple, and Brandon Miller on the outside knocking down threes. So those extra possessions, those offensive rebounds can turn into great offense for Charlotte, especially with them playing at such a fast pace. So I like this pick. I think they did draft for fit, and I think this was a good fit for them. So I'm not mad at this pick at all.
I wonder, would this have been the pick if any of the Michigan bigs were available to them at 14 card?
I think that they would have loved to get a guy like Morez at this spot, possibly, or any other Michigan big at this spot, but obviously they're long gone at this point.
Yeah, there you have it. All right, well, we'll see what comes next. I'm looking at Wass's big board at the moment. You've got a couple guards in Ebuka, Okorie, Bennett, Stirtz, Cameron Carr, a wing, but really a big guard in college. We'll see what he plays in the NBA as well. Really the only international player that we expect to be taken on night one, Kareem Lopez as well. Wass, very rare. A year ago, we had a bunch of international guys in this very show. So why is there only one on the board for night one this year?
Because they're all going to play college basketball where you make more money. I mean, that's really what's happening at this point. But yeah, you look at the board. Now, if we just go back to that last pick for a second, the Charlotte Hornets pick at 18. So I drafted them taking Hannes at 18. But I guess they take him at 14, assuming he won't be there at 18. And they're still going to have an option with these guards here with Philon, Okorie, and Stirtz, or Carr or Lopez. So I guess there was some strategy involved with where they were going to take Steinbach. And it sounds like they were a little bit worried he wouldn't be there when they picked 4 spots away.
Oh, that's a good tactical point. Maybe playing the board a little bit.
Yeah, I think sometimes you can't. If you really want a guy and you don't want to take that risk that a team could pick him up, sometimes you might have to reach a little bit. But as long as you get your guy, you get your guy.
All right, well, speaking of teams with 2 picks early in this draft, next on the clock is the Chicago Bulls. Caleb Wilson, future face of the franchise, taken 4th overall already. They've got Modest Buzelis. They've got a few other players I know they like in Chicago, but Boogie, what would you be looking for here if you're a...
In Cam, I believe they go with Cameron Carr. I think it makes sense. You want to find that athletic wing to kind of grow with this already athletic group. You got Giddy running the show who really pushes the pace, so I think they want to play with a fast pace. So I think Cameron Carr would be a great fit, super explosive. It just makes sense.
Electronauts in the chat is saying Bulls need a center. Card, do you agree?
If they do need a center, I think that Quaintance, me personally, think might be a little bit of a reach at this spot, given what I saw last year at Kentucky. And, when Wass brought up that lineup earlier, the first thing that came to mind is, man, who is going to shoot the basketball on this team? So I'd like what Boogie said with Cam Carr. I think that's a guy that can come in and knock down shots right away with a guy like Josh Giddey, who obviously wants to get others involved with his team.
They also just traded for Nick Claxton.
Yeah, I don't see them needing a center.
Who I would assume they're going to use.
Yeah, I don't know that I agree with Electronauts. Yeah. I don't think they do.
They traded for Nick and they picked up Caleb. I don't see them taking another big.
Cam Carr is, to me, the guy that they should take, and an obvious choice here.
All right, let me throw one back at you guys because I like Cam Carr. I would give that pick an A if I was in charge of grades. But when I hear shooting, I see one name on the board right now, Wass, Christian Anderson. Would you like that for the Bulls here?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the question is, how does he fit with Josh Giddey? Anderson's a very small guard, so but he does work with the shooting. I guess you'd have to play because Anderson's not going to guard 2 guards, so you'd have to play Giddey maybe at the 2 a little bit and mix and match based on who your opponent is. But yes, Christian Anderson is right in the mix there. I like Stirtz is also a big-time shot maker. And Philon as well. These guys are so close. I mean, I'm looking at my own personal big board, and I could easily flip-flop Philon for Okorie here.
Absolutely.
So Cam Carr, his size and athleticism to me makes him just an easier plug-and-play guy with that particular lineup. When you saw, who their starting small forward was, which is Okorie. But we'll see what direction they go.
All right, let's go around the horn, guys. You're in charge of the Bulls. Let's say you're picking a guard here. Who are you picking, Boogie?
Labaron Philon, without a doubt. The hometown kid, comes from a respectable family, hard worker, super talented. I'm a huge fan of him. I watched this kid grow into what he is today. So, wow.
Okay, the pick is in. It's Dailyn Swain from Texas. Not one of the guards we were just naming. However, I think fits the archetype of what we were just going after. Cart, what's your reaction here?
The Bulls love wings that are built like Dailyn Swain. They always seem to draft guys like that, it seems like. And look, I think that Dailyn Swain, when you look at the numbers, was one of the best ISO scorers in the country last year. I don't know if he provides the shooting punch that I necessarily kind of wanted for the Bulls at this spot, but I can see what they're going for with, the size and the scoring versatility, I suppose.
Boogie, your thoughts?
It would have made a little more sense to me to go with Carr for that position. I mean, it's kind of the same fit. Don't know much about the kid. But as far as, what I've seen, he can score the ball, super talented scorer, bigger guard, can finish at the rim. So, it fits that need that they were looking for.
There are a bunch of good scorers in this class, and Swain is absolutely one of them. But I am trying to sort of process this in, the realm of who's on the floor for this team. If Caleb Wilson's on the floor, the question is shooting. If Dailyn Swain's on the floor, I think the question is shooting. If Josh Giddey's on the floor, the question is shooting. Was, what do you grade this?
I've been waiting to do this, not in a mean way, but this is my first under B grade. I don't like the fit. I think it's a bit of a reach. And when we're talking about value, you have to see who else was on the board. You take a wing who can't shoot versus maybe the best athlete in the draft from the wing position in Carr, who was over 40%. He had a ton of blocks, which again highlights more of the athleticism, rim pressure. I compared him to Herb Jones as kind of big defensive wings who aren't great shooters, similar builds. But I think it was a little bit of a reach here. So let's see, where does he fit in this lineup? I mean, he kind of just replicates what Okorie gives you. I know. Let me talk about some positives, by the way, because he did put up 17 points a game for Texas. And yes, you mentioned the isolation stuff. He got much better over his 3-year career. He played the first 2 at Xavier, creating for himself off the dribble. And everybody likes a big wing that can handle the ball and pass, over 3 assists per game this year. The scouting report is very obvious. Just drop back 2 feet because he's going to drive against you. His athleticism, the ball handling is fun, and it's going to be effective for certain teams. But I think he needs spacing around him for him to get those drives off, and I don't think he's going to get it in this lineup.
Interesting. All right. I think it's very rare when we see a C+ from Wasp. But also, can we give the GMs credit? Up till this point, we're midway through the first round.
So far, so good, yeah.
It's been pretty awesome in terms of decision making. If a C+ feels like a bad decision, I think we're in a pretty good spot. But man, I'm a little bit surprised by this one. I got to be honest with you.
I think Wasp was a little bit lenient with that C+. I'm wondering what the United Center rims are going to look like next year. Who's going to knock down a shot for this team? And you just think early on, you draft a centerpiece like Caleb Wilson. What do I want to put around my new star piece? I want to put shooting around him. And I just look at this lineup, I'm like, who is going to knock down a shot? These guys are driving into each other. There's going to be no spacing. I know NBA teams don't do zone nowadays, but I would definitely 2-3 this team. Who is going to knock down a shot?
Yeah, I don't know that there's an answer to that question right now. I also know that I'm looking at the draft order and seeing the teams that are coming up next. I can't help but notice Oklahoma City is 2 picks away. I think probably laughing to themselves that the Bulls just took Dailyn Swain and one of these awesome guards is going to fall in Oklahoma City.
100%. You can see them taking Carr. I know Memphis is the next pick, and I'm hoping they land Labaron Philon. It makes sense that they want to move on from Ja. I think Labaron is the perfect guard to slide into that spot. I think he's a superstar in the making. Kind of a Kyrie-ish type of player, very creative with the ball, can get his shot off in multiple ways, finish at the rim. He can knock down shots from the outside. And he's gotten really better over his collegiate career at becoming a playmaker, getting other guys involved. So I think he's the perfect guard for Memphis next. And it would only be crazy if he falls to a team like OKC or something like that. So hopefully Memphis, makes the right move and takes this guard. I think he's the perfect replacement for John Morant moving forward.
All right, let's do a quick recap of the first round at the halfway point of the first round of the 2026 NBA draft. No surprises early. It was chalk through the first 4 picks. Dybantsa, Peterson, Boozer, Wilson. Then the run of guards. Keaton, Wagler, 5th to the Clippers. Mikel Brown, Acuff, Flemings is how that shook out. Dusty May takes his Michigan product, Morez Johnson at 9. Brayden, Burries at 10 to the Milwaukee Bucks. 2 more Michigan players next at 11 and 12, and Yaxel and Mara. Ament, who will end up with Milwaukee as a result of that Giannis trade. Steinbach and Dailyn Swain to round it out. Boogie, I want to go back to Philon for just a moment. I know that's your guy. Looking at the next couple of teams that are on the clock, Memphis, you mentioned maybe moving off of Ja Morant. It would kind of be a keys to the car situation. Oklahoma City, a team that's ready to win a championship. Where would you rather see your guy go?
I want to see him go to Memphis. Like I said, it's been well noted that they want to move off Ja Morant. They need that lead guard to kind of, take the keys and take over the franchise. I think Labaron is the perfect kid to do so. Great kid, comes from a great family, superstar potential. Like I said, he's improved so much from just being a kind of a combo guard that could just score to being a well-rounded guard that gets guys involved on top of making big shots and being able to score. So his game is rounded out pretty well. Like I said, he reminds you of a Kyrie type of player, which is a huge compliment. And not saying he's Kyrie, I hate to do that because I want to respect all our legends. But if it's anything close to Kyrie, I believe this kid is it.
The Grizzlies on the clock, if they do move off Ja, if they do add Philon, they'd be adding him to a draft class that already includes Cameron Boozer. Let's see if that is what comes to fruition here as the pick comes in. It's a different guard. It is Bennett Stirtz out of Iowa. Ben McCollum and Bennett Stirtz's rise through the ranks of college basketball has been pretty meteoric through the years, and now it results in a 16th overall selection here. Although we have a trade. Okay, breaking news. This is going to Oklahoma City, so they jump up 1 spot to get their hands on Bennett Stirtz. Instant reaction. Boogie, what do you think?
That's an interesting move, but when it comes to Sam Presti, like I said earlier, I trust any move he makes. It's always like he's 2-3 steps ahead of everybody else. Obviously, this is a depth piece. It makes you consider, it makes you think about, what they're doing with their roster as far as figuring out Dort, figuring out the, I'm losing my names right now, but as far as figuring out their guard play moving forward, this makes sense. A depth piece, somebody you can bring in behind Shea, so it makes sense.
Cart, what am I missing on Bennett Stirtz that makes it worth moving up 1 spot in a draft to get your hands on?
I mean, look, maybe we'll hear something about how Memphis really wanted him and they didn't want to, let that guy go. But, once again, I think like Boogie pointed out, Bennett Stirtz as a bench depth piece for that team just makes a lot of sense. He's really been productive every step of the way, going from D2, then to low majors, then to the Big Ten, where he's very successful. I think, Bennett Stirtz is going to be a really good, honestly, I think bench guard for a very, very long time in this league.
If not for the Sam Presti caveat here, I would be jaw-dropped right now. But I don't know. Was, anything here from you?
I'll give you a funny tidbit from my reporting. Memphis told me directly that Bennett Stirtz had the best workout for them of any prospect in the process, and then they shipped him off to 17. Obviously, Oklahoma City really wanted him. Again, if you see my big board there, I have him number 12 overall on my personal board. So, of course, I love this pick. I wonder if it says something for the Thunder. With Nikola Topic there, was kind of one of the up-and-coming guards that they were going to have, had a health scare. Maybe things aren't going as great with them, but Stirtz is one of the craftiest, skilled guards. Honestly, if you look at his stat profile, it's off the charts in terms of his efficiency from every spot on the floor. You see the footwork, you see the shot making from deep. He was 55% on 2-point jumpers. He's the best finishing guard in the class at around 70%. he's just very good at everything. The big question is at the next level, will he be able to get his shot off against length? He struggled a little bit in that department when he had to play bigger defenders, more athletic defenders. But, it's like at this point, where does he fit into the rotation here? Obviously, it's difficult. You still have Jared McCain. Maybe A.J. Mitchell is somebody who they're going to have to ship off because he's going to become too expensive.
Case and Wallace, they got to
Case and
figure
Wallace,
out.
they have too.
That's what I was trying to figure out.
They're just loaded in that backcourt. So I guess we're guessing now in terms of what they do with these guards. But Oklahoma City, they usually don't care about position. They go out and get the best prospect available. As you saw from me, he was the number 2 guy in terms of the best available, and the Thunder just keep loading up.
An embarrassment of riches for the Thunder. The chat just graded this a C. Boogie, is that too harsh?
I do think it's harsh. I mean, this is a really solid pick, and considering where he's going with what they already have in place, I think this is a perfect pick for them. Solid guard, backup guard. He'll come in, do the right things, play team basketball, won't get out of character. He's also learning from, a good group of guards. You got the Case and Wallace, you got Shea, you got Lou Dort. You have this whole group of guards that I think he can learn a lot from, and I think it'll be, valuable for him. So I'm not mad at this pick. Like I said, very solid pick. Nothing outlandish, but it makes sense as far as depth for OKC.
What's interesting, though, when we're seeing the value of second-round picks decrease because so many guys are going back to college, right? So the draft is not normally as deep as it normally would be. And so to see Memphis, who needs some, more star power, especially if they move on from Ja, to give up 16 for 2 second-round picks, which are losing value, is kind of a head-scratching move. But I do trust Zach Kleiman. He's a very smart guy, but trading for second-round picks with number 16 is hard to, unless you're in that war room, hard to understand.
So we do have some breaking news here. It sounds as if the Memphis Grizzlies are now back on the clock and will be selecting at 17.
Oh, okay.
So this was a one-spot swap. Sam Presti gets his guy in Bennett Stirtz. Memphis drops one spot to pick up 2 additional second-round picks.
Okay, so ignore everything I just said. Now it makes sense.
Yeah, that's okay. Bennett Stirtz, Sam Presti's guy, Cart.
If I'm the Grizzlies right now, I'm sprinting and drafting Labaron Philon.
Without a doubt.
I think you move on from Ja, you get the best possible package you can get from him trade-wise, and then you get a guy in Labaron Philon who I think, you see a lot of guys go back, not to throw Tahad Pettiford under the bus here, but came back, didn't really improve his value. Labaron Philon worked on every single thing that NBA GMs told him last year and improved in every single areas. I just think that he's a dynamic scoring guard that you can give him the ball right away, and that's exactly what I think this Memphis team needs. You give a Philon, Cam Boozer, young core with that team with some other pieces. I think I like what the Grizzlies are doing starting over.
Okay, I'm worried if I'm even allowed to say this. I'm checking behind me to see if I'm going to be struck down after I say these words. Did Presti just get swindled? Did Presti move up one spot for a guy that Memphis is going to select a guard they like more than Bennett Stirtz?
It's eye of the beholder. So obviously, Oklahoma City thinks that Stirtz is better than the guards that we're talking about, and they're confident enough to give up 2 additional picks to get Stirtz. Whereas Memphis clearly thinks that the guys we're talking about are equally as good or not better, and they're able to get 2 additional assets. Now, that all plays out. If that plays out, fine. But they could also take Carr, who I'm told Memphis did not expect to be on the board at number 16. So Carr is also going to play at 17. However, of course, with not knowing what's going to happen with John Morez, it does make sense for them to look at point guards.
Beyond the rumors that Was alluded to of Stirtz being the greatest workout that Memphis had, which seemed very real, I do think there's an argument to be made. If you're Oklahoma City, Stirtz fits in with what you have more. He's probably not stepping in thinking, any false idea that I'm the face of the franchise, right? He can fit in, play a role on a championship-ready team, whereas maybe a Cameron Carr, maybe a Labaron Philon are stepping in and thinking, I'm a franchise guard. That's what Memphis is more after. Does that make sense, Boogie?
Absolutely. I think that's exactly what it is. And when I think about Philon, I think of him as a star guard. I think of him as a starting guard. Give him the keys to the car. Let him, right this ship as you move on. Ooh.
Okay, the pick is in. It is another guard, but it is not Carr or Philon. It's actually Wass's best available here. This is Ebuka Okorie from Stanford, another guy like Wagler that had a pretty meteoric rise here. This was not the consensus 5-star recruit out of high school, but this was one of the nation's leading scorers, an absolute bucket getter in his 1 year in the ACC. Instant reaction, Carr, what do you think of this?
Man, I'm a little bit surprised, but also at the same time not surprised, because when Ebuka Okorie was on the floor, one, everyone knew that it was his time to go score, and they still weren't able to stop him. He was an absolute bucket in the ACC. As you can see, the ACC scoring leader. He scored in a variety of ways, and, you know, he kind of, like you said, it was a meteoric rise for him, but he was literally one of the best scorers in the country last year. He's a really fun guard to watch.
All right, we're going straight to the fishbowl. It's been a while since we've gotten a Jake Fisher update. Fish, help us sort through all this.
It's been a while because I've been sifting through all this chicanery, again, your word, for Memphis. And Jonathan Wasserman said that he liked Ebuka Okorie more than anyone. Well, not as much as Trajan Langdon and the Detroit Pistons. I had definitely heard them connected to him at 21. There must have been enough thought for Detroit to move up 4 slots to get him. We've also heard Detroit connected to so many veteran guards, from Tyler Hero to Norm Powell, to Isaiah Joe, to Kobe White. I wonder, does this pick eliminate those other options for the Pistons to find more ball handling, more shooting, more complementary guard play next to Cade Cunningham? I don't think so. I think this is one additional move that they wanted to do for this, and there's still going to be a player on that trade market, maybe tonight, maybe in the coming days before free agency. You know, Powell would have to probably be a sign and trade situation. But the Pistons and this guard spot was probably the next clear-cut guard position on the board that we were looking for. And we get Ebuka Okorie, and Detroit gets Jonathan Wasserman's favorite prospect in this draft.
All right, thank you, Jake Fisher. Lots of movement. Okorie to the Detroit Pistons. Was, over to you.
Okay, that took a little bit of, sorting through. We didn't see the Pistons part until the end. Obviously, he's my 10 overall prospect. So, yes, I love this pick. I don't think anybody moved more up my board during the break between March and the draft. Just going back and watching through film, this guy is electric. I mean, nobody gets the spots better than Okorie. He's got the breakdown speed, his handle, his quickness. He's got the floater touch. He's tough. He's a shot maker from on and off the ball. And like we said, everybody had to stop him, and nobody could do it. So now I guess we're going to go back to, I guess, we're looking at Detroit now, and he's going to be a backup point guard, which is fine, I think, to take at number 17 overall, somebody to take some pressure off Cade. But for everybody out there who doesn't know Okorie or thinks, this is a bit of a reach, go back and watch the tape. He has got the toughest combination of ball handling and quickness and finishing craft and shot-making ability. The big question is, at his size, 3.5 assists per game, you really have to be more of a playmaker. And some of the guys we talked about, like Philon, who came back to college and became more of a complete guard. At his size, Okorie has to be more of a complete point guard who can set the table for everybody else and balance the scoring with playmaking. However, at Stanford, he did not have a lot of weapons around him. He had to do everything himself. I think he's going to figure out how to use his gravity, capitalize on, and get other guys involved off his quickness.
I'm keeping an eye on the chat. The chat's giving this a B+. Carter, you are our Detroit Pistons fan on the couch. What do you grade this?
Don't mean to fan out too much. I'm a little bit slightly hurt here. I didn't think Cam Carr would be available to the Pistons at this point if they were going to trade up. I think that would have been a good piece to kind of put there. Also, Labaron Philon, a lot of other good guards I think were available, maybe with a little bit more size than Ebuka Okorie. But, I think like Waz said and like Fisher said, when Trajan Langdon wants his guy, he wants his guy. So that's what he did. But I'm slightly disappointed a little bit, though.
This draft's been interesting to watch play out because as little chaos as there was early, we're obviously starting to see some tactical maneuvering happen, but there's almost bundles of players at the same position, right? We had the big four, then we had all the guards in the 5 through 10 range. It almost feels to me like we're now on a run from Stirtz to Okorie. We're looking on Carr and Philon next, Christian Anderson, even a Malik Thomas sitting here. If you're Memphis at 16 looking down and you don't see a huge difference between those 6, I don't hate moving down and trying to pick up a couple additional assets as people move up to get their guy. Boogie, if that's what they're doing, do you think this makes sense?
It does make sense, and like I said, you know who my guy is as far as what Memphis should do moving forward. I still think Philon's the perfect piece moving forward for them, and then on the tail end, if they're able to pick up some additional pieces, it's still a lot of talent on the board. I mean, you look at a guy like Malik Thomas, kind of that combo guard, bigger guard, can really shoot the ball, can really score the ball. Just imagine putting those two guys next to each other with that, that young group. So I think it could be something special. It's just kind of figuring out what direction they want to head in as far as them going through their rebuild as well.
Yeah. How do you think it helps Cade Cunningham, Cart?
I kind of wanted a little bit more size and scoring punch next to Cade Cunningham, but that's one thing Okorie does. He scores the ball at a really, really high level, and he'll be surrounded by some bigger players and also some really good defensive guys like Asar Thompson. So we'll have to see kind of how that fits, but I think Cade will very much welcome having that scoring help.
Yeah, anybody else that can dribble, I think, would be really nice for Cade Cunningham based on what I saw in this playoff run. All right, at 18, we have the Charlotte Hornets back on the clock. They last were up at 14. They added Hannes Steinbach, which got mixed reviews from our panel. Boogie, what would you do here?
If I'm Charlotte, I continue to kind of add depth to this team, fill out the bench, add more talent. I think their starting five is pretty much complete. Towards the end of the year, they really picked it up team-wise as far as collecting wins, finding that chemistry, playing a high level of basketball. So I have become a fan of this group and their starting five. I like where it's at. So for them, just continue to add depth, talent to their bench, and moving forward with what they have so far.
All right, and the pick is in. It is Christian Anderson. The run of guards continues. Anderson, a prolific scorer, huge assist numbers as well in 2 years at Texas Tech. I thought his improvement from what he was the moment he walked onto campus as a true freshman to the moment he left, arguably more so than any other guard in this class, just noticeable. He I don't think really ever expected to be taken 18th overall in the NBA draft. Maybe him and his dad would push back on that. I know they always believed in this upside, but it's been impressive to watch, Cart.
Yeah, I love this pick for Charlotte, too. I think, like Boogie said, the starting five is set. You get a really good bench scoring guard in Christian Anderson. For a player like Christian Anderson, every single person in the media that was breaking him down coming to a sophomore year, he was on every single breakout list. He had all the pressure in the world. We see guys like that fail all the time. He went above and beyond what I think a lot of people thought he would be in his sophomore year. And I think adding that level of player, shooter, and even underrated playmaker as a bench piece for Charlotte, I absolutely love this pick.
Guys, I have a fun note on this as well. I believe, fact check me on this, Christian Anderson and Hannes Steinbach, teammates for Team Germany.
Yep.
In FIBA events in recent years. Watts is nodding over here.
That's true. That did happen, and they were pretty good together. I'm sure that played a role in Charlotte pairing them together.
Interesting stuff. Boogie, what do you think of this move?
I like it. Like I said, it's about Charlotte continuing to add talent, depth to their bench. Starting five is set. They have their franchise PG and LaMelo Ball. Adding this only makes them that much stronger as a group. I like the pick. I like the addition of depth. Good move for Charlotte moving forward.
Was, what do you got for a grade?
I mean, he's just a very good player. He's just very solid. I don't know what the upside is with a guy his size, and he lacks a little bit of degree of burst. But man, 7 assists per game this year. He's one of the top shooters in this draft. He reminds me of Darius Garland in terms of his shiftiness, and I mean, he's going to knock people to the floor with the step back and his crossovers, his shooting off the dribble. Again, he seems like the perfect backup point guard, and I think Charlotte might be losing Kobe White. I don't know exactly what's going on with those contract negotiations, but after adding a big guy with number 14, you want to get some backcourt depth. I guess they went with Anderson over Philon, maybe a little bit more shooting credibility with Anderson, but the idea was have somebody to back up LaMelo Ball, who's obviously injury prone, and Christian Anderson is just a very trustworthy guy you can have to run offense, set the table, and make shots.
All right, thank you, Was. Guards flying off the board right now. Stirtz, Okorie, Anderson. Again, we're still waiting on Philon, Carr, Malik Thomas, others still on the best available. But as we look at this group of guards that has come off in night one of the NBA draft, is there a pick that you particularly like the landing spot most of, Boogie?
I like Darius Acuff to the Kings, just based off his talent alone. Obviously, the position he's in, he'll have all the opportunity to play through his, his mistakes. So I like what's going on there. I just hope it's a situation that's built for him to succeed. You know what I mean? But him being as talented as he is, the opportunity presented in front of him, I think it's a match made in heaven. And I think he can really turn that franchise around. So I'm excited to see.
And there's your guy, Coach Cal, who has now set the record for most lottery picks ever produced. Your thoughts?
That's what he does, man. It's a machine. Kyle is super talented as far as, making guys trusting what, he has going forward, believing in his system, believing in playing for one another, getting the maximum out of all the talent that he's able to bring in. And he knows how to produce pros. So that's one of his gifts. I think that's one of the reasons he's one of the greatest in college basketball. So shout out to Kyle.
And we have a lovely stats and research department here for these live shows. I just phoned this in. 30 lottery picks produced by John Calipari. 0 lottery picks produced by Mark Pope. Cart, do I have that right?
Come on,
Sources can confirm that is correct, yes.
Okay.
They ran that, didn't they run that guy out of town? Interesting.
Oh, come on,
guys.
But listen, we'll say it so you don't have to, Boogie. It's okay.
It's going to be me.
No worries. No worries. No worries. All right, Cart, same question to you. Of all the guards that came off, who do you like the fit for most?
I think I actually like the Keaton Wagler fit with Darius Garland. I just think, Wagler's size at 6'6", next to maybe a more undersized PG and Darius Garland. I think I like that fit a lot. And if for some reason that fit doesn't work, I actually think there's a world where maybe they even give Keaton Wagler the keys if he shows a little bit of progression down the road here, and then you still have your guard of the future there. But I like the fit there at 5 with Keaton Wagler.
All right, let's flip it, and maybe the biggest surprise or biggest landing spot you have questions for out of this group of guards.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Which one of these is the one that's the biggest question for you as they enter their NBA career?
I'd probably say the last pick with Christian Anderson. He's a smaller guard. You already have, your franchise guard in LaMelo. It does bring up questions as far as what's going to happen with Kobe White, who was initially that backup guard. So if it's to fill that void of him leaving, it makes sense. But if he's still there, this is a bit of a question mark for me.
Cart?
It's my Pistons. It is with Okorie. And Was, I trust you with my life, so I'm gonna believe you when you have him at number 10. But I really look at Cam Carlos at that spot. I question whether that 6'1" guard is going to be the fit that needs next to Cade Cunningham.
Shit, Cart, I'm looking at Christian Anderson. Would I have rather had Christian Anderson?
I'm looking at the remaining prospect score. I like those guys in Pistons uniforms.
We'll see. Long way to go. And like we said, we like Was. Was, your big board, speaking of, you've got Cameron Carr still, if we consider him a guard, at the top of the best available. Who's next up on your list?
Acquaintance is difficult for me to rank, only because I don't have his medicals. And if something happens with his knee, I'm not getting fired for it. But in terms of if he is fine, if he is healthy, the risk is worth the reward. I think it's 16. Yeah, Philon is the best ball handler left by far, in my opinion. Lopez, again, I think he's just a solid player, and same thing with Zuby. Good, solid role players right there.
All right, the next pick is in. The Toronto Raptors have selected Allen Graves, 19th overall, and the noise you're hearing right now is draft Twitter rejoicing, Carter. This has been their favorite all year long. 19th overall, I think some people would argue this is too low. Yeah,
I think, this is Spreadsheet FC's baby right here. He's a metric darling. I think that he was extremely productive in his year at Santa Clara. And, I think you look at the type of prospects, the type of players that the Raptors have, I think that this is kind of the type of player they're after. He can defend at a high level. He can shoot the ball. He can stretch the floor. And, I think a lot of guys are very much in love with his game.
There was some early speculation that Graves could be a transfer portal target, possibly command one of those highly sought-after $1 million for 1 year type contracts. Instead, taking 19th overall, I think this was a bet on himself and one that it's hard to shrug at, Boogie.
Oh, absolutely, and I think he made the right decision. It's hard to get drafted in the first round of the NBA, so You know, him betting on himself and those are the results, I'm pretty sure he's ecstatic with what's happening. But just to speak on his talent, you can see the versatility, you can see the scoring ability. You know, him going in that mix of what's already going on with the Raptors, I think that's a good complementary piece. The versatility. The Raptors are a very versatile team. Have a lot of size, a lot of versatile wings, a lot of versatile bigs. So adding him to this mix, I think it's a complementary piece. I like everything I see. Santa Clara always finds a way to get them a really good pro as well. It being a more smaller school or whatever, they find a way to have a pro every year. So shout out to Santa Clara, and from what history has shown when it comes to Santa Clara players, they turned out pretty good. So I'm excited to see how his career plays out.
Yeah, from Pajemski to Jalen Williams, now Alan Graves next in line from Santa Clara. Was, what's your grade here?
I'm a bit lower on Graves than others. This is a pick that a analytics department makes. I'll give this a B. I think he's going to be a nice role player in the NBA. Everybody likes the archetype. They like a forward that can shoot the three and guard a couple of positions. I would have liked to see them take Philon. I mean, I think they really need a ball handler here. I compared him to Robert Covington. I think that's kind of the idea, a 3-and-D guy, assuming that the three-point shooting is real. But he didn't play many credible opponents at Santa Clara this year. The strength of schedule wasn't great. I would have liked to see him come back and kind of validate some of the numbers against some tougher opponents. But I see the appeal here. Let's see. So in Toronto, where is he going to go? Again, quickly hasn't shown a ton. That's why I like Philon there as some insurance there. But I don't see him starting anywhere in this lineup. He comes off the bench next year, and hopefully by year 2 you start to see more results. But interesting player, the guy with his frame that shoots 40% from 3. The 4.9 steal rate and the 4.9 block rate make him very unique. BPM, he was top 5 among freshmen if you care about box plus minus. So I see the appeal. To me, I would have let someone else go after him, and there were other players on the board I liked a little bit better.
There's a lot of people out there who do care about BPM. Was, I can promise you that. Graves has quite a fan base. Fish, live in the fishbowl. What do you got for us?
What is going on? Toronto was connected to all kinds of centers here at number 19. Alan Graves was someone they really wanted all along, and it's not a surprise he's the pick. I do wonder what this means for the Raptors on the veteran market. They've been connected to Domantas Sabonis. They made a play at Jaren Jackson Jr. in February's trade deadline before he went to Utah. We heard them kind of sniffing around Trae Young before the Wizards deal came about. So what's next for the Raptors here? But also, we saw a lot of trade movement, right, with Memphis moving back from 16 and then to 17 and then again to 21. I keep hearing that San Antonio on the clock right now at number 20 is also looking at moving back. So we're looking at San Antonio at 20, Atlanta potentially number 23, New York at 24, Denver at 26. There's going to be a lot of trade conversation here in the back half of this first round, the back third of this first round in particular. And I think it's partially because, and you guys could speak this better than I can, there's considered to be a drop-off somewhere in that 24-25 range because of all the guys that went back to college basketball and really got a nice NIL payday to stick around at the collegiate level.
Yeah, Fish, that's an interesting point. Just the nature of this draft feels unique relative to previous years that we have seen. There certainly is a point where it feels this loaded lottery class sort of falls off. And I think we might be seeing that play out in real time as team after team after team now seems very willing to pick up the phone and move down. I don't know, Card, any thoughts on what we're seeing play out here?
Yeah, I just think we always talk about how guys should go back to college, but there's also an argument you can make on the flip side of that. Guys should stay in here because all these guys dropping out, someone's got to get drafted. Someone has to get picked, and someone needs to get picked in the draft. So I think you're seeing guys here stay in, and a guy like Alan Graves, who had some Duke interest, some Michigan interest as well, he's kind of vindicated being picked top 20 in this draft, maybe because some guys dropped out.
And at the same time, while we sit here saying it feels like teams are open to moving down, that also means players that we like are falling. And I think that's where we are at with Labaron Philon, Boogie. We know you're high on him. Why do you think we are seeing this slide?
It could be fit. I'm not necessarily sure exactly how the workouts went in his favor. So, I mean, that could be a case. But it's a lot of talent. So, you know, it's still a lot of people to choose from, but I think it's more so coming down to fit. I don't really see Philon as a, you know, off the bench guard. I think this is a guy you hand the keys over right away. So I think it comes down to the right organization picking him. I still feel, you know, a team like Memphis could use a guard like this. A few other teams kind of come to mind. So I think it's falling more so into the fit category than anything else. So I don't think it should be too much longer before this kid is drafted. It's too much talent to overlook. It's undeniable. And like I said, he's a complete game changer. I think he can change the organization around. I think he can make the guys around him better. And like I said, as far as talent, it's undeniable.
I'm getting some PTSD here to the last time a Calipari guard fell to the 20s. And Carter and I were on the phone begging our Pistons to select Tyrese Maxey. Fast forward a couple years, and he's immediately a franchise guy and one of the best guards in the league. Carter, do you think that Philon could have a similar fate?
I really do. I think, I mean, if I'm a team in this area, I'm either working to trade up or I'm just sprinting, taking a guy like Labaron Philon. I know Boogie said earlier there's some Kyrie to him. Greg, I've said this to you, and I don't like doing this because it doesn't feel fair whatsoever, but he gives me like 6'3" SGA vibes. Obviously, he's not SGA, but when you tell a guy to go get you a bucket, Labaron Philon can go get you a bucket, and he can do it at an extremely high level. And I also think his freshman year, he did play a role. So, like, he is able to adjust if he needs to, but he can also be a star player.
All right, well, the Spurs are on the clock next. And as we talk these guards up, I will say the Spurs were not in the market for a guard with all those guards in San Antonio. I think this pick makes some fit sense. It's Jayden Quaintance. We barely got to see Quaintance at Kentucky this year, to the ire of all of BBN. However, the flashes are certainly there. In one very young year where he was just 17 years old at Arizona State, this was an all Big 12 defender and a guy that could one day be the anchor of an NBA defense. Boogie, what do you think of this pick?
I was hoping you asked me what did I think the Spurs would do. This is exactly what I thought they would do. They need to add more depth to that big man spot to continue to complement Wemby. I think this is a good piece. Super versatile big. Didn't have the greatest year at Kentucky. He was coming off the ACL that he suffered while he was at Arizona State. So he didn't have the greatest year, but the kid is super, super talented, very versatile, can do a lot of different things on the floor. A dynamic defender. So I like everything about him. I just wish the sample size could have been a bit more. You do get a little bit more when you look at his Arizona State highlights, but it wasn't the same at Kentucky. But respect to this kid. Hopefully he's healthy moving forward, and we can see his talent on display.
Yeah, you mentioned the health. There are some still ominous clips at the Combine of him seemingly only wanting to land on the non-ACL leg. So if he does get to full health at some point, back to what we saw at Arizona State, this is going to feel like a steal for San Antonio.
100%.
It's a big if, though. Was, what do you think of this?
I mean, this is an A. You're already in the finals. Take a chance at number 20, and this guy has the highest defensive upside, I think, of anybody in this draft. Before the season, and obviously I didn't know what was going to happen when he comes back from the knee thing, he was my number 4 overall prospect. I mean, that's how his physical profile is so ridiculous with the 6'9" in socks, a 7'5" wingspan. I was at his pro day, and I know there's a lot of people talking about who did I compare him to? Like Derek Favors. There's a lot of people talking about he was landing on the wrong foot. It looked like he was dunking on like a Fisher-Price hoop, you know, just like without even jumping, just like throwing it down. And he's not fully healthy. I mean, if he's still younger than some freshmen, and he's been in college basketball for 2 years. I think this is a total, a total gamble worth taking here, especially when you have Wemby. He doesn't even have to play 30 minutes a game. Make him play 15, 20 minutes a game just to come in and finish lobs and protect the basket. So to me, it's the perfect spot for him where he can be patient. And if you're the San Antonio Spurs, to be able to bring this guy off the bench in a couple years and you're already in the championship now, I think it makes total sense.
Yeah, a spot where you could certainly envision him playing alongside Wemby, or certainly backup minutes when Wemby's off the floor. Back to the fishbowl. Fish, what can you add?
What's going on, guys? There were plenty of teams who told me directly they had medically red flagged Jayden Quaintance out of the first round. That they were not going to select him because of fear after their medical team looked at his body of work, that he could potentially need a second surgery this offseason on this torn ACL that he's been recovering from. So San Antonio is taking a bit of a gamble here, but because of their infrastructure, because they have one of the league's best defenses, which it'll be interesting to see how good that defense remains after their defensive coordinator, Sean Sweeney, leaves and becomes the new head coach in Orlando. But they can slow roll this return from injury if he does need a second surgery. Obviously, the Spurs were just in the finals. They're not expecting their number 20 pick to come in and change their defense. But the upside is, as Washburn talked about, incredible. And if it does work out, the Spurs are just added potentially one of the better, rangier defensive big men that we've seen in a couple years next to Victor Wembanyama. Could be an incredible pairing.
Yeah, all right. Thank you, Fish. Carter, what do you think?
Yeah, I think if you're the Spurs, you are a couple plays away and a couple games away from winning the NBA title. It makes sense that they could take a gamble on a guy like this, and if it does work out, I'm even picturing they might even play Quaintance and Wemby next to each other for a little bit, and I don't know how you score on that team with Steph Castle on the wing and then also Dylan Harper taking steps in his game. I think Dylan Harper could be very disruptive defensively as well. I think it's worth it for them to take a swing with a guy like Jayden Quaintance, who has shown flashes that he can be a really good NBA defensive big.
Looking at Was's big board, there are a couple other big men that are here without the medical concerns you might have with Quaintance. Zuby Ejiofor, Koa Pete, Chris Sinak, certainly a guy with a really high ceiling. What is it about Quaintance that you think makes it make sense for a gamble, even despite the medical red flags here?
I mean, technically, if this kid was healthy, I think he could potentially be a top 5, top 10 pick in this draft. So the fact that he dropped off, the ACL injury makes sense. Obviously this is an investment, so you want to make the right investment. I think teams are doing their due diligence as far as figuring out his health. San Antonio has the luxury of, kind of putting him on the bench, working with him, letting him develop at his own pace because you have such a strong core group already. But the fact that if you're able to get him healthy and add him to what you already have, it's scary to think about. So I think this was a brilliant move by the Spurs. It makes sense. And if he is ever, I think an organization that's, that prioritizes health, I think this is a perfect spot for him, and this could be scary down the road.
A lot of confidence tonight. Just a lot of all-around thumbs-ups that we're giving everybody. I'm waiting for chaos still at some point. And that's a good segue to the 21st pick in this draft, where the Pistons are technically on the clock. However, reminder, this pick does not belong to Detroit. This is going to go to the Memphis Grizzlies after the Pistons moved up to take Ebuka Okorie from Stanford. Memphis originally had the 16th pick. They moved down. Stirtz goes to OKC. Okorie goes to Detroit. A flurry of guards go off the board. And yet Memphis is now on the clock at 21, staring down both Labaron Philon and Cameron Carr. Boogie, we keep saying it. There has to be only one pick here, right?
Man, it's the only pick that makes sense for him. Let's see.
And the pick is in. And it is not what we thought. Okay, Kareem Lopez is the pick, likely the only international player we expect to be taken on night one. Boogie, you're shaking your head.
Yeah, I know absolutely nothing about this guy. No disrespect. I don't really understand this pick. I don't understand this pick for Memphis, but I figured they were, in the field more so for a point guard moving forward. It just makes you think, what's the situation moving forward with Ja Morant? Is this a situation where he's going to be on the move, or are they now considering, keeping him? Because to be this late in the draft and they still haven't, decided to go after a point guard is kind of head scratching. So no disrespect to this kid. I'm sure he has talent. I don't know much about him. But the pick doesn't make sense to me as of right now.
Yeah, I agree with Boogie. The moves tonight certainly make it seem like Ja Morant may have a future in Memphis. Cart, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I hope he does after some of these picks because they're definitely going to need him. But, with them picking Cam Boozer early on, it seems a little bit redundant, in my opinion, to go after a guy like Lopez. But then maybe Lopez plays a little bit more three. I know that Was likes Cam Boozer with the opportunity to play the three as well. I thought they would go guard at this position, at this spot of the draft, even if they did not go with Philon. So little surprised, but at the same time, I've seen Kareem Lopez as high as 12 in some mock drafts, so it could be really good value, I think, down here at 21.
Let's go to Was. Was, what's your grade?
I'll tell you right now, Kareem Lopez, people thought he was maybe going 9. So this is a big fall for him. I don't love the pick, pretty much for every reason that Boogie said. Let's go with we'll go with a B- here. Unless they know something we don't, which is very possible, you would have thought that Philon would have been an obvious choice, or even Cam Carr, who could slide right in to that small forward spot. I think this is an ideal outcome, is a Franz Wagner. You have a 6'9", strong frame guy who can run pick and rolls, who can play inside, who can make threes, but is not a great three-point shooter. Let's see how he fits in here. And right, you have Cedric Howard there and Boozer. It's hard to find a spot for him. It's just I love the idea of taking their best player available and you figure it out later, but not if you can't give that best player available an opportunity to develop and maximize his potential. And so I don't see how all three of these guys are going to be playing at the same time. Not to mention you have Edey in the middle. Listen, I respect every team's personal evaluation. I thought there were better players on the board, and Philon just seemed like such an obvious choice based on, their roster situation.
The chat is being harsh here. The chat grades this a D right now. I can't say I blame them, guys. I think I hate this pick.
Yeah. It just seems very redundant to some of the other pieces they have on the team. You saw how tough of a time Wash had sliding him into where he's going to play in this lineup. It just, at a certain point, I think that even if it wasn't Philon, I think a guy like Cameron Carr at the small forward spot, maybe even slide Boozer to the 4 next to Edey. I love how that fits. I think it'd be great positional size as well. I think you hope that Kareem Lopez's shooting comes along, but if it doesn't, I think they might be kicking themselves that they let some of these other guys go past him here.
He's an interesting case because he's been playing pro ball since 17 years old, and not just playing, like putting up numbers, like being a contributor to a decent team in Australia where they have some big, tough guys. And he has that versatility that the NBA loves, that the big guy that can play some wing, play some inside, move the ball a little bit. But he doesn't have one, bankable strength. I don't know exactly what he's going to do in the NBA better than average anytime soon. So there's a little bit of gamble because there's so many skills he has to raise. But he is still very young, and he's got some very unique experience playing pro ball.
I think I like each of the individual pieces on paper as I go down the list with Memphis, even Cedric Howard, a guy we sometimes forget about. But I'm just left wondering, whose team is this? Is this Ja Morant's team 5 years from now? Are they trying to build around Cameron Boozer? Are they trying to fit Boozer in to something in between Zach Edey and now these other jumbo wings? I don't know that I see the puzzle pieces coming together here, Boogie.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's not really making sense. I don't really know what direction they're going in. Maybe they're collecting assets to, possibly move them later. I'm not sure, but, with as much smoke that's been around Ja Morant's name, as bad as the relationship has been between the two, I just don't understand the direction they're going. And the fact that he's still there, they're not really drafting, anything for the future to kind of replace him. It just makes you really scratch your head. What are they doing moving forward? Is Ja Morant going to be here this season? It's a lot of questions around what the Memphis Grizzlies are doing right now.
It sounds like a lot of drama with a drama-free guy in Cameron Boozer that you drafted to be your foundational centerpiece. Fish, what can you add for us?
Kareem Lopez, guys, had a lot of smoke around him to Memphis at number 16. So we talked about the Grizzlies potentially trading up. Memphis likes to trade up, trade down, trade out of the draft, trade into the draft. They basically got their guy at number 21 that they would have taken at number 16. They moved down 5 slots and then got the guy that they would have taken for 5 additional second-round picks after their 2 trades, first with OKC and then Detroit. So a good piece of work by Memphis.
All right, we'll see what those second-round picks become down the line. That leaves us with the Philadelphia 76ers on the clock at 22. Now, this is a franchise that has a few backcourt pieces that are already face of the franchise types. VJ Edgecombe drafted last year, Tyrese Maxey, who I mentioned earlier in the show. I don't know how you fit these guards we keep beating the drum for, Boogie, into this. Where do you think they go here?
I think they go with a wing. I'm thinking a Cameron Carr, a Malik Thomas type of player. Some more young wing depth to kind of match the timeline of VJ Edgecombe and their starting guard. So I think it's more so about timeline fit for those younger pieces. Tyrese Maxey, I'm sorry. I think it's more about the timeline of those younger pieces, getting a little more wing depth. And also youth on their side. You think about the Paul George, you think about the Joels, those guys are a little more up in age, so they need to continue to draft some youth to go with that timeline.
All right, the pick is in. It's your guy, Boogie. It's Labaron Philon.
Shout out to the city, man. Happy for him. I'm glad it finally happened. I think he dropped more than he should have. But I'm super excited for the kid. He gets to learn behind Tyrese Maxey. They obviously pick up some more depth as far as guard play. I'm not mad at the pick. This is an exciting player. I think he's going to be great in Philly. I think Philly will love him right away. He can fit next to a star and he can beat a star. That's the greatness that comes with Philon. So I'm not mad at this pick. Good pick for Philly.
Man, I think Philly's sitting here drafting in the same spot every year. Like, how do you keep letting us get these guys? I mean, I almost can't blame them for going back to the wild card.
Yeah, I was going to say that whatever war room they're in right now, they're doing cartwheels in there because they had choices here. They could have went Cam Carr, but I love the pick of Labaron Philon. Now, I don't know what they're going to do fit-wise. Is Philon like the bench guard? Do they maybe go a little bit small with VJ Edgecombe at the 3, play them all three at the same time? Don't know if that necessarily works, but I think if you're the Sixers, getting a guy that is as dynamic as Labaron Philon is at that spot, I think you are absolutely ecstatic. I'm excited to see what Watts' grade is here.
They did do it for a little with Jared McCain, to be clear, although you could argue it didn't work, and that's why Jared McCain is no longer in Philly. Watts, what's your grade?
Well, this kind of erases that mistake that they gave away McCain, and they almost didn't even deserve to have Philon on the board here. This is an easy A. Arguably the best prospect on the board. You should have gone higher. And listen, at this point in the draft, you're looking for depth. You're not really looking for a high-level starter, especially if you're Philly and you have a lineup like they do. By the way, I know we've been talking about some of the comparisons. He reminds me a lot of DeJounte Murray with the way he kind of gets to his spots, herky-jerky type of stuff. That's the type of guard I think he's going to be at the NBA level. You could play him at the 1, you could play him at the 2. He's pretty interchangeable. But let's take a look at Philly and see where he fits in. Obviously, you know, Edgecombe and Maxey have those spots down. And listen, every team needs some depth. Every team needs some firepower off the bench. And he's going to be able to play to his strengths. He's not going to have to run offense as much as he did when he was at Alabama, which he got better at. And I think a big selling point to Philon is that he has his freshman year, right? He goes through the draft process. They tell him, you got to come back and you got to improve your shooting and you got to improve your playmaking. Well, he comes back and averages 20 a game, shoots nearly 40% from 3, and averages over 5 assists per game. He did exactly what the NBA guys asked him to do. So that ability to, you know, listen to what he needs to improve and then actually do it, I think is a very good trait.
Boogie, is this the steal of the draft to you?
It could be possibly. And, you know, obviously I don't think you get to maximize him in his rookie year as much as you can because he plays behind a Tyrese Maxey and a VJ Edgecombe. So, you know, it's not as much opportunity when you already kind of had those franchise guys in place. But I think he can be a really, really good depth piece for this Philly team. They need more young depth. You know, like I said, this is kind of an unbalanced team as far as having the older guys in Embiid, Paul George, and those guys, even a Kelly Oubre. So just adding that young, you know, guard depth, I think helps, especially with them losing Jared McCain the way they did. So, you know, replacing them with a Philon, I think that's a good move.
And I feel like we just watched a bunch of deep playoff runs from teams that had these log jams in the backcourt. Just a bunch of great guards. It's never a bad thing to add to that. I'm envisioning Philon just fitting in between Maxey and Edgecombe. One thing that jumps out about all three of them that I think they're wired the same way with, they all have so much shit to them. I mean, I came into last year's draft saying the thing I love most about VJ was the chit he plays with. Maxey the same way years ago. I feel the same way about Labaron Philon.
Yeah, he's a competitor. He truly is, and I love what Watts said too, because I think when you look at his freshman year, he did exactly what Nado's asked him to do. And then he comes into a sophomore year, needs to step up in his role. He plays that role extremely well. So I think if you're a 76ers fan, coach, front office, you feel good that Labaron Philon is going to come in and do exactly what you need him to do next to guards like Tyrese and VJ. You can never have too many guards. You really can't.
No. All right. resetting here, we look next to the 23rd pick in the draft. It is the Atlanta Hawks who are on the clock. Let's check back in with Was with his big board. What are we looking at right now?
So far, the big storyline to me was Philon slipping a little bit, and Cameron Carr, who was the star of the NBA Combine. The best Combine scrimmage I think I've ever seen since they reinstated it maybe 10 years or so ago. Zuby Ejiofor is going to bring some energy right off the bench for somebody right away. Pete is a guy who can definitely slip into the second round. I heard his workouts are not going very well. And then you have a couple of these other guys, Sinak, Isaiah Evans. These are guys all projected to go in the 20s, so nothing too crazy, nobody too obvious except for Cameron Carr, who any second now I would think would be a very enticing piece as a 3-and-D athletic wing.
Yeah, it does feel to me, looking at this big board, we're getting into that dreaded second round, which feels so wide open this year with so many guys that opted to come back to college. It's just going to flat out be a weaker second round than we've seen in recent years. And
tomorrow's going to get weird after about 45.
It's going to get weird. And I think if you're a team drafting in the late first round right now, it might be a little bit of an arms race to get Cameron Carr. That's what I see at the top of this board.
Yeah, I think they need size and shot creation. I also think that they could possibly make a move for a center here. I know that Was talked about how Nkongwu, he's more of a 6'9". Maybe they want to play him next to a bigger center. Maybe a Chris Sinak, who I think also can show a little bit more offensively than he showed, but a really good defender, really good rebounder, lob threat as well. I mean, if you're the Hawks right now, I actually think you're in a pretty good position with a few options here, which is a pretty good spot to be in, I think.
By the way, Darius Jr., who is, I have 32. I've seen a lot of texts from NBA people. They really like him. He's somebody who I was told from multiple sources is somebody who can go higher than people think. And so he could be an option for Atlanta, who also, again, needs a big guy and needs some more rim protection.
Interesting. Would I get to claim that as the fourth Michigan frontcourt player in the first round?
Absolutely not.
I couldn't do that?
Absolutely not after how you behaved.
I think I might do that anyway. We'll see. Okay, there's some good teams that are about to make a selection here. Where would you like to see Cameron Carr go most?
I wouldn't mind them being in Denver. I think Denver needs to add as much athleticism as they can. Playing off a guy like Jokic could be really, really beneficial for him just with his athleticism, his ability to cut to the basket. I think he could really flourish in the system next to Jokic, so I wouldn't mind seeing him in Denver.
All right, and the pick is in for the Hawks at 23. It is Zuby Ejiofor. He just had an amazing season for Rick Pitino at St. John's, one of the more productive bigs in all of college basketball, Cart.
Yeah, extremely productive, one of the best bigs in the country and in the Big East. He was just a truly dominant force on both ends of the floor. In his senior season, I thought he really expanded his game and did become somewhat of a threat from the outside as well. I don't know if from the Hawks, I can maybe want a little bit more size. Zuby's kind of a more undersized center, even though he makes up for it with his wingspan, but that kind of seems a little bit redundant to kind of what they have. I think he's more of a power forward than a center at the next level.
3.5 assists per game. You don't normally see that from college bigs. Boogie, how's it going to look in the NBA?
I like that. I like the 3.5 assists. I think that's great as far as fitting in, especially. I mean, I'm assuming Atlanta is drafting him to, come off the bench and kind of be a depth piece. So you want him to kind of fill into a role. So I can see that working out well with the 3.5 assists. Just being a high-energy big, that's going to be a plus for him. Obviously, he's well coached, being under Pitino. So he's a very coachable guy. So I like this pick for Atlanta. I do think he's a bit undersized for what they need as far as height. But just everything he brings to the game can be a plus for Atlanta. So I'm not mad at this pick.
Was, do you like it?
I don't think anybody had Zuby higher on their personal big board than I did. I had him top 20. I gotta give it an A-. The only thing would be the fit, right? This is another kind of undersized big, but he's so unique, and he's got such a high floor. Like the things that he does, I think are going to translate. He's going to be like a Jalen Williams type, a hustle guy. He's going to take charges. He's going to get you easy buckets. He's going to work hard. And this year, he just raised his skill level to be a capable shooter. He's not a three-point knockdown guy. He can make the pick and pop once in a while. He's a very good passer. He's a good post player. But really, his job in the NBA is going to be play hard get you easy buckets, run the floor, guard as many positions as possible, which he could do really well. And, looking at the lineup, right, he's not going to leapfrog anybody in the starting lineup. But to have this type of energy guy off the bench, I think it gives Atlanta a little bit more toughness.
And most importantly, Carter's name's Zuby.
It's a great name.
Boogie, you know something about a fun name, right?
name.
Like sometimes that can just be something. Let's go to Fish. Fish, what can you add for us here?
So like we talked about, was going to listen to trade offers all the way on the clock at number 23. They were connected to centers, right? We talked about them being a potential Aday Morez spot up at number 8, but we never thought they were actually going to do that high. They got a big guy here in Zuby. I don't think this is going to dismiss Atlanta being a player further in the veteran big man market. They still got to look at Jock Landale, but I am on a lookout here for more details on a trade incoming at number 24 for New York. So stay tuned for that, guys.
All right, we're going to break that news for you here, Fish. 24th overall, where the Knicks were set to select, is now going to go to the Los Angeles Lakers. Second time in this first round that we have seen a team trade up one spot to get their guy. Is this Cameron Carr?
It's got to be Cameron Carr at this spot. Yeah, put him at the small forward spot. Kind of just be an athletic wing who can also knock down shots. I think that's what the Lakers need. They had a lot of Jake LaRavia last year. I think that Cam Carr could be an upgrade in that spot.
Not a LaRavia guy?
I am, but I think Cam Carr brings a little bit more.
Okay. The Knicks, fresh off of an NBA championship, trading down to the Lakers. Boogie, your thoughts?
Not mad at it. I do know they have to kind of fill in that bench depth at the guard position. I think Landry Shamet is kind of in question as far as how it goes in free agency with him. He had an incredible playoff run, so I'm sure he's looking at a pretty decent payday coming his way. So he could possibly be on the lead from the Knicks. So I could see them looking to fill in that void. Cameron Carr comes to mind. Malik Thomas comes to mind. Just kind of having that athletic wing come off the bench, I think, will be a plus for the Knicks moving forward. So I could see one of those guys in play.
Yeah. All right, I'm looking at the big board here, and I do feel like we've got a couple athletic guards between Carr and Thomas. You've got a couple of shooters between Isaiah Evans, Malik Thomas, even an Alex Caravan. Then you've got these bigs in Vesar, Chris Sinak, Terrace Reed that Wasp mentioned as well. Card out of these next 10 up on Wasp's big board. Give me a sleeper that you are particularly fond of.
I've liked Joshua Jefferson a lot in the pre-draft process and even during the season. I just think he's one of those bigs who does so many things on the floor. He has the defensive versatility, and he was extremely productive last year with Iowa State. I could see him being very productive on a team right away, given his age and also how productive he is. So I'd be interested to see if one of these teams maybe takes a shot at Joshua Jefferson at these spots.
How early is too early for the UConn guys, Boogie?
I like the UConn guys. They're well coached. They come from a great system. Always have a competitive, nature towards them. So I think any team picking up one of these UConn players is going to be a plus for them. You know exactly what you're getting. They have winning ways. They come from a very intense coach. So I'm pretty confident in picking UConn players. So I'm not mad at them.
All right, the pick is in. Let's see who the Lakers are set to get. And yep, we nailed it. It's Cameron Carr. This was the best available. This is a slide that probably shouldn't have happened. Boogie, your thoughts? I
like him next to Luka. Just thinking about his passing ability, the way he's able to get up and down the floor, the athletic ability, even, some signs of shooting the ball, shooting around. Luka is always a great thing. But I'm thinking of the athletic standpoint and the passing ability of Luka. I'm expecting some pretty cool highlight plays from these two.
Cart?
Yeah, I'm with you, Boogie. I think that, playing him with Ebuka, playing with even like a guy like Austin Reeves, LeBron's still in limbo a little bit there, but if he's back, basically you're going to ask Cameron Carr to use his size, his athleticism, and his shooting ability, and basically just be in the right spot and make shots, and when it's time to run, get out and run. And it's good to see that Cam Carr gets drafted here. We need to make the NBA Combine mean something again. He was one of the most productive players there. I'm very surprised that he slipped this far, but I think it's a great win for the Lakers to get a player like Cam Carr at this spot in the draft.
All right, Was, are you getting tired of giving out A grades yet?
I mean, these teams are kind of on the same page as us, right? I mean, at 24, I have to give this an A. I mean, I could say that he shot 40% from three, and then he had a 42 max vertical, but you don't need those numbers. He's like an eye test guy, right? You just look at him shoot the ball, look how he flies down the floor, how he plays above the rim. To me, he's just an eye test standout and a plug-and-play guy. He reminds me just like Devin Vassell, who, again, just a 3-and-D wing. Doesn't have to do too much creativity. Step into a couple 1 to 2 dribble pull-ups. He's got the deep range to catch and shoot, and then finish plays. But let's look at to see how he fits in with LA here, and I guess we're going to see what happens with Reeves. But yeah, I mean, he's probably going to be somebody who comes off the bench early on and just provides some spacing, some shot making, some finishing. He's not going to have the ball in his hands a lot in terms of creating, but just an easy plug-and-play 3-and-D guy with a high floor and a valued archetype.
Yeah, a lot of guys in limbo on that Lakers rotation right now, but Cameron Carr will find his way into it. One thing I loved about his year at Baylor, it was not supposed to be his year necessarily. Came from Tennessee, ends up at Baylor in year 2, and this was supposed to be Tunde Esefu's team. And Tunde is now headed back to college. I'm sure he'll have a great year. But from the moment you set your eyes on that team, it was Cameron Carr that was the guy that needed the ball in his hands, that was just too efficient, too good, too prolific as a 3-level scorer. And sometimes I think guys that earned that didn't necessarily have that role promised to them, are the ones that I want to put my personal bets on at the next level.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think that Cam Carr, a guy with such offensive prowess and ability, couldn't touch the floor for a Rick Barnes team at Tennessee, goes to Baylor, and immediately becomes what he became. I think it's a really cool story in itself. And, if I'm a Lakers fan, I'm extremely excited to have that level of wing scoring athleticism off the bench.
And I think
so should we still be trusting Rick Barnes and his evaluation?
He told Cam Carr he was Kevin Durant, then didn't play him. He's like, all right, I'm out of here. I'm going to Baylor.
I know who Boogie's loser of the night is in a few more minutes here. By the way, question everybody wants to know, what does this mean for Bronny's role in L.A.?
Is LeBron there?
Okay, let's go to the Fish Bowl. Fish, save the day for us here. What do you got?
Who knows where LeBron's going to go? I don't think he knows right now. I think the Lakers' offseason priority begins with Austin Reeves, and then we'll figure out the rest. New York does this trade moving down one slot to save some money. I mean, they're going to have very serious cost considerations going up against the second apron. We saw James Dolan come out publicly and say they're not going to go above it. I think they still might have to keep this championship team together, but every penny is going to count for New York to try to keep Landry Shamet and Mitchell Robinson. We saw the Knicks do all different types of things to save literally dollars per day to stay below the first apron when they were hard capped at that because of the Mikel Bridges trade a couple years ago. So we knew New York was looking to move down from a salary standpoint. It's just one pick, but they get cash back for this move with the Lakers. And we'll see if they keep moving here. There's definitely a lot of inbound trade calls going into Denver right now at 26. So still some opportunity for movement in the back half of this, or the back 10 picks of this first round.
All right, thank you, Fish. We'll see if there's any more surprises before the first round comes to a close. Are we allowed to call James Dolan cheap right now?
He's a champ, so I guess he can do what he wants.
It's kind of his world. We're all living in it now, right?
I mean, I guess you could say that, but it kind of sucks. You know, you wanna kind of continue with the momentum of being the New York Knicks being champs. You want to kind of build off of that. It just sucks, you know, as a player when you hear your owner kind of come out and say, I don't want to spend any extra. When, you know, this is a team that's right there. They have a chance to, you know, possibly go and compete for another one. So this is what we played the game for. This is what we all signed up for. So to me, it sucks to hear your owner say that.
Yeah, it's Knicks in 5, not Knicks in $4.99. We can't be saving pennies. That's crazy.
You know what's better than one championship?
What?
Two.
No, 2 of them.
Right.
Go get it.
Well, and they're on the clock now with the swap, and guess what? There's no Cameron Carr on the board. So now if you're the Knicks, who are you looking at, Boogie?
I'm looking at Malik Thomas, or I'm looking at Isaiah Evans. Like I said, you know, they're figuring out the Landry Shamet situation. He was a very valuable piece for them with this playoff run and championship run. He hit some huge shots for them. So his value has increased drastically going into this free agency. So it's a great chance they lose him. So I think, you know, drafting a young guard and Malik Thomas could help. He's kind of that combo guard, can play a bit of point guard. You put him next to a Jalen Brunson, and he's kind of in his bag, going in that scoring mode. He can be that off-ball handler. So I think that could work. And then you think of Isaiah Evans, who's a bigger guard, has a great shot-making ability, can really shoot the ball, can kind of fill that same role as a Shamet, as being that outside shooter with even more size. So those two kind of make sense for me moving forward.
The one thing I would say that I see as a commonality between all of Wass's big board right now, it's a lot of guys that won a lot of games in college. These are a lot of guys that some role players on a really, really good team, some that were stars on really, really good teams, but you fit that into a Knicks team that's win-ready right now. I think they've got a lot of good options here, Cart.
Yeah, I think Knicks fans would absolutely love Malik Thomas and Isaiah Evans. I think we've seen how also they rally around the players that come off the bench and make an impact on this team. I think Malik Thomas and both Isaiah Evans bring a lot on the court, but also they bring a lot of energy to every team that they're on. Whenever they're on the floor, I feel like you can feel both those guys uplift their team, and it feels like one of those times where when those guys make a shot, it feels like it's even worth more than 3 or 2 points at a certain time. Just kind of how they emotionally can swing games. I think that'd be perfect for the Knicks at this spot.
Wass, who do you have your eye on for New York here?
Well, I know that they love Malik Thomas. I know that just from reporting and being around as a New York guy, being around the team. They love Houston guys, so Sanak is definitely on their radar. And, of course, they need shooting, particularly if Shamet is not able to be brought back. They also really trust their international scouting department. They just got Diawara at 52 in the draft a couple years ago and just signed him to an extension. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Sergio De La Rey, who just helped his team get to the ACB final yesterday, if he's in play and they want to do a draft and stash because they're also trying to save money, save roster spots. So plenty of options here. Also, I wouldn't be surprised if they keep moving back to save money. So a lot of options for the Knicks.
Oh, did you say save money? I think James Dolan's ears just perked up. He's excited. The pick is in.
Oh.
And there you have it. It's Sergio De La Rey. Okay. 6th best available per Wass's current big board. But, man, I've teased it throughout the night. I thought we might only see 1 international player taken in the first round. It's actually 2 now with Kareem Lopez and De La Rey off the board. Carr, what do you think?
I think that, you look at the Knicks team, and obviously I think they read this pick. They want to just add a guy that has skill and size. You see him operating in the pick and roll here. I think he has the ability also to play off ball a little bit. He just, he has a very well-balanced game, I think. And, I was kind of late to watch him in this process, but when you do put on his film, you just come away being like, wow, that guy just does a lot of different things on the floor. So I could see him being a factor for the Knicks as a bench piece.
Boogie, what do you think?
Big playmaker, 6'6" guard, can do multiple things on the floor, can play him at point, can play him at shooting guard. When you think of him next to Jalen Brunson, he's a great complementary piece as far as, like I said, when Jalen gets into his mode of scoring, you want to have that off guard that can kind of take on that point guard role. So I think he's a good fit as far as fit-wise. And like I said, it makes sense. So not a bad move at all.
All right, let's go straight to Wass. Wass, what do you think?
Yeah, risk worth the reward, or reward worth the risk here. This late in the draft, I'm giving this an A-. A couple other guys I like a little bit better, but yeah, look at those measurables. Back-to-back years, he shot near 40% from 3 and had an assist percentage over 25%. Not many college guys did that, and he's doing it in pro leagues and EuroLeague, ACB, which is former college stars and former NBA players. Just a very fun game. Like, there's no label on his position, right? He can run pick and rolls. He can be a shooter, very interchangeable guard with great positional size, and obviously a lot of pro experience. Makes a ton of sense for the Knicks.
Chat gives it an A- as well, Wass. So you're in lockstep with the chat, who, by the way, I was keeping an eye on it, wanted Malik Thomas. I saw like 19
I saw
leaks.
about 40 leaks just spamming in the chat. They did want Malik Thomas at this spot.
I think that's just championship vibes. They don't get their guy, and they still give themselves an A- card. It's okay.
They won a championship. Nothing can go wrong for right now.
It's okay. I guess that's how it goes. Yeah, I think this is a good upside pick at this point. I mean, I see a lot of guys that could have certainly stepped in and played roles on the Knicks' current core and compete for championships, but I think De La Rey has a little bit more upside to that years down the line. I don't know that I buy the timeline mapping here, but I can't knock it if that's what they're drafting for.
I think the interesting thing here is that they have the 31st pick. So if anything, I thought maybe they would trade out at 25, not have to pay that rookie salary, and then you get him at 31, and it's a non-guaranteed contract. So in my mock draft, I have them taking him, but at 31, not at 24 or 25.
Interesting. All right. Thank you, Was. All right, Card, I'm staring at Koa Pete at the top of the big board right now. And as Was alluded to it, has not been a workout warrior. Lots of questions with his, I guess, new terrible look jumper form. He looked like he showed up with just a completely reworked shot that has not been figured out just yet. But at the same time, that's a guy with a lot of pedigree from youth events. He won nearly as much as Cameron Boozer through his 17-year-old season, and he led Arizona to a Final Four alongside Brayden Burries. So I guess how low is too low for Koa Pete to drop?
You know, I think this feels like a good spot for a team that wants to take Koa Pete and develop him. I think a lot of people wanted him to go back to school to possibly show a little bit more in his game. But if you think about it, if he came back and improved so much that he was in the lottery next year, you're a team picking right now. You take him, put him in an NBA system. I still think there's really good things to love about his game with the versatility, the size, the athleticism. Florida was one of the best front courts in college basketball last year, and Koa Pete torched them to start the year, and I just can't ignore that. The productivity is definitely there, but there are some concerns as well with the jumper.
There were two big men all year that found a way to produce a double-double against the loaded Michigan front court. It was Cameron Boozer and it was Koa Pete. Now, it was not the most efficient double-double from Koa Pete. I think he was like 5 for 16, but he's still a bulldozer and he's still an NBA-ready body, and I think he's still a guy that does a lot of winning things. So we'll see. A couple of these teams next on the clock are playoff competing franchises right now. Boogie, what do you make of Koa's game and the questions around it?
You know, those workouts can be really harmful to you, you know, and I think they're very valuable as far as the young guys coming in, because it could be a make or break thing for you, especially when you're lower in the draft. You're not one of the higher projected picks. So it's unfortunate that, you know, the workouts didn't go well for him, but you could tell this kid has a lot of talent, very versatile, a bigger size, you know, forward, which is a plus in our league. So I think the talent is there. It's also going to be a situational thing. What team is willing to, you know, invest in his development? He might not be quite ready as of right now, but this could be a project down the line. So I think it's a situational thing, and you know, hopefully he goes to the right situation.
Was, I want to ask you more because you were the one who kind of floated that this could happen with Koa Pete. How surprised are you to see him still available?
Not at all. In fact, I have him going in the second round. It's funny because, remember, Florida and Arizona opened the college basketball season, and he went for 31-10. And everyone's like, all right, this is the number 4 guy in the draft. And then over time, we see kind of his weaknesses exposed. He doesn't shoot the 3. He's a undersized power forward. He doesn't handle the ball. He shoots a lot of mid-range shots, but he didn't shoot them at a high clip. So it's kind of like, what does he really do here in terms of translating to the NBA? I think he's, at this point, an interesting buy low guy. I've also heard, right, the shot looks messed up. I've heard he's sat out. He couldn't finish workouts. He's got to get in better shape. So nothing really going in his favor during the pre-draft process. But again, he's still a freshman, and he was very productive for one of the top teams in the country. I think teams are being a little bit too hard on him.
I don't know about that. Not being able to finish a workout as a professional athlete, I doubt that's teams being hard on him. That's just a bad thing on his part.
Yeah, that's some bad mojo right there. All right. Cart, who do you have as your sleeper right here in the next 10 best available?
I'm looking at Malik Thomas right now, especially if the Nuggets want to take him at this spot. I think, obviously, Jokic, you got a lot of known pieces with that team. I think on the wing for the Nuggets, though, I was a little bit underwhelmed with how Christian Braun took a step this year and some other guys. I think that having that level that Malik Thomas has, I think would be a really good injection into any of these teams, but definitely looking at the Nuggets, and I know the Celtics are probably licking their chops, too, that they could draft a guy like Malik Thomas.
Cart, which of these bigs that is on the big board next up would you want to invest in most? I'm looking at like Sanak, Vesar, Terrace Reed got to mention. Now Ugan Onyenso's cracking the list. Or any of those ones that you would put your chips behind?
I mean, you know I'm a Sanak guy. I think that the size and the defense and the rebounding are there right now. And I think if you look back to some of his prep film, I think he can do a lot more offensively. I think at Houston, though, with Kingston Fleming, he just didn't really get the chance to do what he can really do.
All right, the pick is in at 26 with the Denver Nuggets on the clock. And, okay, it's actually San Antonio who is making this selection. Terrace Reed, that's Jake Fisher breaking this news. Fish, tell us more.
The number 35, it's number 35 pick. In tomorrow's second round, a 2031 second-round pick from Sacramento, and then a 2028 second-round pick from Minnesota to get Darius Reed to the San Antonio Spurs. So the Spurs trade back in. There had been some talk about San Antonio trading down from 20. So clearly they were targeting a guy in this range. That guy is Darius Reed, the UConn big man. Denver, like New York, also has some apron salary tax concerns. So they get out of the first round. They get the number 35 pick, which is only 9 slots from now. So they pick up 2 future seconds. Again, the 2031 Sacramento second, and then a 2028 Minnesota Timberwolves second round pick to move down just 9 spots on the board. So that's our latest trade.
All right, thank you, Fish. Interesting stuff from the Spurs here, who I will remind you took Jayden Quaintance just a few short minutes ago. Maybe a little injury insurance with Quaintance here. Boogie, what do you think?
That's exactly what I think it is. Quaintance' biggest issue was his health. So obviously they took a risk in drafting him, especially as early as they did. So, with this pick with Darius Reed, I think this is like insurance for that pick. You'll have a serviceable bid. He'll be available. No health concerns. He also comes from a very winning program. So I think this was a smart pick by the Spurs as far as continuing with their big man depth.
Carlos, a guy that you and I covered for 4 years in college who had one of the more interesting paths to this point. Resilient is the word that comes to mind. Remember, he was the starter under Juwan Howard at Michigan his final year there, transfers to UConn, where as a junior, he comes off the bench behind Samson Johnson before ultimately becoming the best player on a team that competed against his old program in a national championship game. Pretty unprecedented path, but I guess, what do you think his NBA future looks like in San Antonio?
I think he'd be an incredible backup big for the Spurs. I'm honestly very happy for Darius and how he has grown throughout his college career. He talked himself about how after that junior year at UConn, he wasn't even sure if he wanted to come back to UConn. He does. He becomes one of the best bigs in the country. I think he's extremely tough. I think for a guy his size, he moves really well on his feet, and he transformed his body. I think this is a really good backup big depth piece for the Spurs. I love this as some acquaintance insurance.
All right, let's go to Was next. What do you think?
To me, this is a B+. I really like what he brings to the table for San Antonio. I've had multiple teams tell me that he was their favorite interview throughout the whole process. A unique individual, some stats that I kind of just found out going through the process. He's one of 3 players in college basketball history who's ever had a 9% block percentage, a 15% passing rate, and a 13% offensive rebounding percentage. So he does checks a very unique set of boxes with his interior play, his passing, his post game. I like him. He's going to give San Antonio a little bit of some offense around the block, some easy second chance points, and some passing, and seems to be a great kid. So I like what they bring to what he brings to the table there. It also gives Quaintance some extra time to recover.
All right, so we called it insurance or time to recover, but Boogie, this is also 2 guys at the same position being taken by a franchise with Victor Wembanyama, with let's win a championship now aspirations and really expectations. Is there some pressure on those 2, and is there one spot that they're competing against each other for? What do you think that dynamic will look like?
To answer the first question, I don't think there's any pressure on them at all as far as, carrying that team to a championship or being prioritized as the main pieces. But, as far as the competition, that's what this is. This is what the NBA is. You got to earn your spot. You got to earn everything, everything you want in this league. So it's 2 guys that's competing kind of at the same spot. May the best man win. I think it brings the best out of both. I think it's a good problem for the Spurs to have. But at the end of the day, these are 2 guys competing to be, either next to Wemby or his backup. So that's what this league is. It's about competition.
All right, if it's may the best man win, Cart, 5 years from now, who's the best man, Quaintance or Darius Reed?
I know a lot of people are going to say it is Quaintance because there is that level of what his ceiling could be, but I don't think you can also discount what Darius did. Darius' development, first of all, how he did to transform his body, and I think also transforming his game. I think he's a high IQ, high character kid who's going to get better, and I bet my money on Terrace Reed being a really good backup big for that team in the next 5 years.
I like Quaintance too. He's got the higher upside, I think, but if we're kind of viewing that pick as he's got some time with San Antonio, I think Terrace will make the most of that time. All right, the Celtics are on the clock at 27. The pick is in. It's another big. It's Chris Sinac Jr. Cart, you mentioned it earlier. This is your guy.
Yeah, I love this pick for them. I think that he brings, like I said, he brings defense and rebounding right away. He's a dog on the offensive glass, as most Kelvin Sampson Houston bigs are. And like I said, I think there is some untapped offensive potential that could possibly be unlocked with him. He did shoot it a little bit from outside. Definitely can get that a little bit up three-point percentage-wise, but I think the form is good. I think he finds himself in a really good spot right now with the Celtics. I'm in love with this pick for the Celtics with Sinac.
All right, Boogie, your thoughts?
Man, just the versatility, the potential. A guy that can shoot the ball a bit, has great size to go along with it, a defensive presence. You're going to a great organization in the Boston Celtics, so I think everything is kind of lining up for him to be a really good project with the Celtics. So I like this pick for them to add some depth to the big man position. This is also a team that's, one of the top in the East, and also possibly competing for a championship depending on the Jaylen Brown situation. But I like this pick. I like the depth, and I like the potential with this kid. I think he has a chance to be really good in this league. So this is a good pick for the Celtics.
All right, I'm excited to get Wass's grade before we throw it to him. I'm going to push back a little and maybe let Wass break a tie for us here. We just watched the Celtics get bounced from the playoffs by shooting way too many threes. They just drafted the only big in this draft class that only wants to shoot threes. This guy would not get his feet in the paint in the NCAA tournament. He wouldn't do it. He just wanted to shoot jumpers. They weren't going in. They got bounced 2 rounds too early, and we saw Iowa almost make a Final Four in their region. I don't know that that's going to come together. If it does, there's tantalizing skill here, but it's a fascinating pick for a franchise getting blasted for too many threes right now.
Yeah, listen, I'm not going to be too critical at 27 overall, but I'm going to give him, I'll give it a B. He's my 27th overall prospect on my board, and he goes 27. I would have taken Malik Thomas. I would have taken Isaiah Evans, more plug-and-play guys. Sinac, right. Everything comes down to, can he become a reliable three-point shooter? Like, he'll rebound, he'll get you easy finishes, but I don't know if that's going to be enough to be a full-time player. He wants to be a wing. It's been like that since high school. He was never like a rim protector. He really profiles more as a smaller power forward with the way he plays. So everything's going to come down to that shot, and he's very capable, but he's got to be more than just average. He's got to be an above-average shooter to hold enough value offensively. But you'd like to hope that Boston, who has a pretty good track record, will get the most out of him.
All right, let's throw it to Fish next. Jake Fisher, what do you got?
This was another spot we were looking at for potential trade activity, and Chris Sinac, in addition to Nate Ament, was someone that we were told New Orleans was targeting if the Pelicans were able to trade into the first round. Those were the 2 guys that we heard that Pelicans Vice President Troy Weaver was looking at. But I'm being told that Sinac is staying in Boston. We know the Celtics have been looking to add presence in their front court. You talked about it, guys, that he's not exactly a paint presence. So it's more of a shooting piece. I still think Boston is going to be a player here in trade talks, in free agency for big men. We've heard them connected to former Celtic Robert Williams. I don't think they have the ammo to get Rudy Gobert, but we know they've called on Rudy Gobert. The Celtics are still, I believe, in the next week plus, going to be looking at adding to their center rotation.
All right, thank you, Fish. Quickly on the Celtics pre-show, we were talking about this. They lose out on the Giannis Antetokounmpo trade. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are still in that locker room, Boogie. What do you do with that?
There's some hard conversations to be had. If I'm Jaylen Brown, after the season I just had, the way I carried the Celtics when we were considered, down for the count for this season, I'm pissed. I think he had an incredible season, even coming off a Finals MVP. I think it's kind of completely disrespectful as far as how they handled the situation with Jaylen Brown. Obviously, they're going for a first ballot Hall of Famer in Giannis, so anybody could be, on board as far as being a trade piece. But I think the situation could have been handled a lot better, especially with the way he's carried this organization this past year. So if I'm Jaylen Brown, I'm pissed. I know it's going to be some hard conversations to be had between the two. And, I'm actually interested in seeing how that goes, what direction this goes. Are they able to, kind of recover and blend the relationship, or is Jaylen Brown on the move to his next destination? So we'll see what happens.
It's going to be interesting. All right, next on the clock at 28, it is the Minnesota Timberwolves. However, reminder, this pick will be going to the Brooklyn Nets. As part of this Julius Randle trade, the Timberwolves also sent the 28th pick in the draft to the Nets, Nick Claxton to the Bulls. That means the Nets will make this selection. Carter, if you were on behalf of Brooklyn here, what would you have your eye on?
I'd be looking at Malik Thomas possibly at this spot. I think it'd be really good value. I think that there's another level to his game as well. I mean, with trading away Nick Claxton, maybe they want to go big here. I know Vassar is on the board, but I think Malik Thomas would be a pretty good fit as a scoring off-ball guard with every single PG that they have on that roster. I think Malik Thomas would be a good fit.
The team that I'm most confused about in the last year and a half, I think, is the Brooklyn Nets. We came on here last draft saying, I have no idea what they're doing with all of the point guards. Now they're seemingly super in on Julius Randle. This is a nice asset to have sitting here at 28, but I have no idea what they're trying to build. Boogie, what are they trying to build?
I think it's just a team in the mode of collecting as many assets as they can, and hopefully down the road they can, regain some value in those assets. There really is no direction for Brooklyn right now. I wouldn't say it's a complete rebuild because most teams go completely young, but them trading for Julius Randle is just showing that they're in the mode of collecting a lot of assets, not really in a win mode now. A win right now mode. So collecting assets, see what happens down the road, and maybe they can get something in return. So,
in the spirit of collecting assets, who do you think the best pick is along that mold?
I would go with a Malik Thomas as well. The fact that they have so many point guards on the roster, you want to kind of put that complementary piece next to it. More of a combo guard, a bigger combo guard, 6'4", 6'5", so I think that could make sense. And I also go back to Isaiah Evans. You can never have enough shooting in the NBA. He's also one of the bigger wings that can shoot the ball at a high clip, so I think he could be a good piece as well.
All right, we'll see what happens, but our panel is a pretty big fan collectively of Malik Thomas. That would have been my answer too. The pick is in. It's Joshua Jefferson. And again, that's the Timberwolves logo, but that's going to the Brooklyn Nets. Cart, you were gassing up Joshua Jefferson earlier in the show.
Yeah, I love Joshua Jefferson because of his versatility. I think the passing is there. The defensive instincts are what I think sticks out to me the most as well. I wouldn't say he's a 1 through 5 defender necessarily, but he's extremely physical, and I think he's extremely smart. I think he has incredible basketball IQ, the way he sees the floor and plays the game. I think he improved his three-point shot enough to make himself a factor. But once again, it seems like the Nets love drafting like the same guys, though. So I'm trying to figure out what they're exactly doing here. But I love Joshua Jefferson, the player. As you can see, I mean, he just touches every single part of the stat sheet when he plays. I thought he was a very productive player for Iowa State.
Yeah, there's a redundancy aspect to everything the Nets are doing right now. But oddly enough, if you view Julius Randle as like a mentor for Joshua Jefferson, I think I like it. Boogie, your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't understand the pick either. Like you said, they just got Julius Randle. They kind of draft a guy in the same mode as a Julius Randle. So, maybe he could be a project for the future, possibly. But, as of what they're doing now, I'll just say what I said before. This is a team that's collecting assets. Hopefully they can move them later on to get exactly what they want or whenever they're ready to win. But it doesn't quite make sense with what they already have in place.
Wasp, what do you think?
I actually like Joshua Jefferson. I'm going to give this, again, relative to where we are on the board here, I'll give this a B+. I think his versatility has really kind of expanded over the course of his college career, and I like that every year he adds something a little bit new. This was almost 5 assists per game this year. I mean, that was not the type of player he was when he was a freshman. And so he's also, I've used this term before, he is a Swiss Army knife type of guy. I think he's pretty solid defensively. He moves his feet very well, and somebody who can guard a couple different positions. Maybe not a ton of upside. He's one of the older guys in the draft. He's one of the weaker athletes in the draft, as we saw at the NBA Combine. But I think this is an NBA role player, and with a high floor, and to get him at 28, I think this is a fine pick. Obviously, some higher upside guys, younger guys on the board, but if you're looking to fill out your roster, I do like Joshua Jefferson.
Some injury concerns late in the season for Jefferson. Not sure I'd say those affected his draft stocks. I think it's a little bit of a surprise to see him taken in the first round. But a player, if he is fully healthy come NBA time, I think he's got potential certainly on the upside scale relative to some of the others on the big board right now, Cart.
Can't they just go be Knicks fans? they have that choice, don't they? The Nets just have so many players that pass the ball. We actually joked about this on the show last year. Eventually, someone's got to get a shot up. And I know Cam Thomas became that guy, and they got Michael Porter Jr., but the redundancy of this, I don't really understand it. And I love Joshua Jefferson as a player. I just don't know what that looks like on this Nets team.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Michael Porter Jr. is very happy right now, is my only answer.
You could be a Knicks fan. It's in the same.
I don't know.
Just bandwagon.
Oh, boy. All right, 2 picks left here in this first round. The Cleveland Cavaliers are up at 29. The Dallas Mavericks are up at 30. And I can't help but notice a guy that Boogie mentioned pre-show is one of his favorite sleepers, just cracked the 10th spot on Wass's Best Available. Trevon Brazile makes an appearance in the show for the first time. Boogie, you like him?
I like Trevon. It's a guy that's really developed over the years. You know, Cal kind of took him over when he took the Arkansas job, and, you know, the 2 years he was with Cal, he really developed over those years. Super versatile, great defensively, runs like a deer. Just everything you're looking for in the athletic, versatile big. I think he fits that mold. Can also shoot the ball, can also put it on the floor, and also is a lob threat. So I think he's a great, versatile big, can complement a lot of teams. So I'm excited to see where he goes as well.
If he doesn't go off the board in the next 2 picks, I'm going to get some good sleep tonight, and I'm going to come back for day 2 of this show ready with some pretty egregious comps. Because I don't know who's getting taken in the second round, Wasp, but I see Yaxel Lendeborg a little bit in Trevon Brazile if we get to that point. We're going to go to Jake Fisher, who has something for us. Fish, what do you got?
Still working through the details, guys, but I'm getting number 29 is being traded and number 30 is in trade talks too. The Kings are moving in with Cleveland at 29. They're taking UConn's Alex Caravan. There's going to be some second-round capital changing hands, and I do think that there is a chance Phoenix gets him with Dallas here at 30, but we are still working on that as well. Zach really did want to get back into the second round. They called early in this process up with Charlotte and Toronto at 18 and 19. I don't think they would have taken Caravan there, but they were calling and looking to get back into the first round, all night. They do so here and get the UConn floor spacer, and we'll see how this thing wraps up.
Fascinating. All right, so the Sacramento Kings are going to get Alex Caravan at 29. Thank you, Jake Fisher. Do we like this, boys?
I actually like it a lot. I think we talked about some of the dysfunction that kind of took place within the Kings organization. I think you have one of the greatest winners in college basketball history. Alex Caravan did nothing but win championships and make Final Fours and be a productive basketball player. I think he's very versatile. I think he rebounds well. I think he can shoot the ball. They ran him off the ball. They put him on the ball. Hurley did at UConn. I think I actually love this pick, especially in a situation where you have, early on they get Acuff, a guy like Caravan sliding that in. I think that's honestly a really good fit. I love it.
It's a lot of shooting between those two. Boogie, what do you think?
I like it. Win now player. I think him coming from the background that he comes from in UConn is great for the Sacramento Kings. I think they should look into as many winning type players as they can, as more so than they look at talent. I think winning is important for them. So I'm not mad at this pick. Good, solid pick. Could be a great role player in a Kings system. So I think it was a good pick for the Kings.
The guy started in 3 national championship games in 4 years. He's played more high-leverage basketball games than any player coming out of college basketball. It is certainly a winning DNA pick, and there's a lot of shooting between him and Acuff. Was, what do you think?
Listen, I love the pick. I like the winning culture that Sacramento is trying to build. This is an A-. However, it would have been pretty cool to see them pair Acuff and Malik Thomas. Right? That would have been cool. And Malik Thomas, arguably the best prospect on the board, and to bring those two together. But Caravan, obviously, as you guys mentioned, the winning track record. He brings immediate floor spacing, toughness, IQ, all the stuff I think Sacramento could use as they rebuild back that roster.
Yeah, the chat's giving this one a B. I think they agree with your point, Was. if not for Malik Thomas sitting there near the top of the big board, this is a no-brainer pick. But with Thomas there, you could have just run it back.
I kind of like this pick. It kind of reminds me of like a Joe Ingles. As far as how he plays the game, his ability to shoot, his toughness, just the veteran savvy. So I'm not mad at this pick. I do think it was. I think it was a make sense type of pick to put Malik next to Acuff. Obviously, they're very familiar with one another. They have a great chemistry, and they created a lot of wins, being teammates. But I'm not mad at this pick at all.
All right, the story with Acuff to Sacramento back earlier in the first round was that's where him and his representation wanted him to go. Boogie, you have Sacramento experience. I know what we said about the Kings franchise earlier in the show. Do we think that this is where Dan Hurley and Alex Karaban's representation wanted him to go?
I think UConn culture and Dan Hurley can supersede any Sacramento Kings he's a stabilizer. He's a winner.
Listen,
he can stabilize
I'll say it for you. I will say it for you. Karaban's a winner, but you just dropped him in a place where I don't know if it matters that he's bringing winning to you.
Hey, they like lighting come on now. Light the beam's a thing.
I know, but when I envision where does Karaban's powers be put to good use, it's like a team ready to compete for an NBA Finals. I'm not sure Karaban's coming in and changing the culture in Sacramento. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I hope I'm wrong on that. I love Alex Karaban.
I think he can. Like I said, drafting winning players, to an organization that hasn't had a lot of winning, I think is a plus. It's not always about the talent because, the talent doesn't always necessarily work out. But if this guy has winning ways and he can bring any of that to Sacramento, especially teamed up with Darius Acuff, who I also think is a winner, I think Sacramento's heading in the right direction.
I think naturally we just pictured Karaban going to a playoff team and playing minutes right away and helping them in the postseason. But also, it can't hurt if you're Sacramento to get one of those type of guys and put him in there. So definitely a good pick.
Yeah. All right, we've got one pick left in the first round, and we're going right back to the Fishbowl. Jake Fisher, do you have more news?
I do. Like we said, that the 30th pick was also potentially on the move. Phoenix, I heard yesterday, we wrote it this morning on my Substack effort with the Hall of Famer Mark Stein, that the Suns were looking to move back into the first round, that they had several trades available. They are doing so here with Dallas, still working through the terms, but they are targeting and selecting Arizona nearby product, Koa Pete, who was one of, you guys know it's better than me, he was one of the real last-minute borderline NIL stay or go prospects. He could have gone back to the Wildcats and been a major contributor to a championship contender with Arizona, but he is a first-round pick after everything is said and done and Phoenix gets their guy.
All right, there were a lot of people in Arizona that wanted to see Koa Pete get paid to play basketball in the state of Arizona. It's not what they wanted, but they got their wish anyway. He's still going to be in their Phoenix Suns fandom circles. Cart, do you like this move?
I like that, you have the aspect that, this is an Arizona kid, played high school in there, grew up in the area, obviously played at the University of Arizona, but looking at some of the other wings and guards that were available, you think that maybe they want to get one of those players like a Malik Thomas or an Isaiah Evans, but at 30 here, Koa Pete, like I said, the production is there. The jumper's a question, some of the other things are a question, but, I think it's worthy of a pick here at 30, and also Koa Pete himself is vindicated with a buzzer beater here by entering the draft and actually being a first-round pick and kind of, stamping his decision to stay in the draft.
Yeah, you can't be the faller if you get to still attach that first-round pick to your name. Boogie, what do you think?
I think it's a plus that he's able to stay, basically at home. If anybody had a up-close view of his talents, it would be a team like the Phoenix Suns, being a local team. So I'm pretty sure they did their homework as far as who he is as a player. I try to think of his fit next to a Devin Booker, a Dylan Brooks, and those type of players. So putting him more in that role as far as a complementary piece could actually, help him as far as continuing to be a pro. So I'm now viewing him as that role player, that complementary piece. So it might be something that works in Phoenix.
All right, Wasp, what do you think?
Listen, to get him at 30 overall, I mean, there's no risk there. Oops, sorry here. Can't get to him. But, yeah, I mean, listen, there's no... There we go. To me, this is an A-. Like, he had a rocky draft process. Sometimes I think teams put a little too much stock into workouts and stuff like that. Obviously, maybe this will be a wake-up call for him. He went 30 overall. He's got to get in better shape. He's got to fix his shot. But even with these kind of excuses here, he was still a very productive player for a #1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament. He's got a strong frame, a solid post game, a very good finisher, a good passer. I think he was a more versatile defender than I thought he was going to be. He's just, to fit better in the NBA, he's got to be a three-point shooter at his size, at 6'7". So, in Phoenix, he should have an opportunity to play through some mistakes. He's obviously not going to start right away, but again, 30 overall, I'm happy for him that he got in that first-round mix. However, we got to look at the end of the board here. Malik Thomas, Isaiah Evans, pretty big surprises that they're still on the board heading into day 2.
Yeah, the chat graded this a B+. And the more I think about that Suns fit, a lot of guys that want the basketball, Kobe can fit in between them. I think Devin Booker will love it. So I'm happy for him. All right, let's look at the big board quickly as we stare at what's coming tomorrow. Malik Thomas, best available per WAS. Isaiah Evans just also got to mention. Those are probably the 2 big surprises. Vesar Onyensu as well if you're looking for bigs. And then it's anybody's game from there. I think we're going to see some crazy names off the board tomorrow, WAS.
Yeah, I mean, we might see some names that I haven't even thought of as NBA draft prospects, so that'll be interesting. But still, very intrigued to see where Malik Thomas goes. I think the Knicks take him at 31 if I'm making a prediction.
It should be fun. All right, we want to go around the horn here, guys. Let's go a winner. Biggest winner from night 1 of the NBA draft. We'll start with Cart.
I actually think I'm going to go with the Kings. I think the Kings getting Darius Acuff where they got him at 7 could arguably be the best guard in this class. I also wouldn't have been surprised to see Darius Acuff go as high as 3, given his talent. And then they also get a guy like Alex Caravan late in the first round. I just think that the Kings needed an insertion of just star power and a guy that can change a franchise. And for them to get a guy like Acuff, SEC Player of the Year, All-American, at 7, I just think that's a great fit and a great pickup for them.
All right, before we get Boogie's winner, we have a chat question for Boogie. What do we got from the chat here? Chat, where are we? There we go. Who in this draft do you think compares to you the most?
I haven't quite seen many, but I would say the closest might be like a Jayden Quaintance. As far as his versatility offensively, he can do a lot of things on the floor. He can shoot the ball. He can put the ball on the floor, drive it. I think he was a better defender than me at this age. But if it's anybody, I would say he was probably the closest.
I'll say it for you. Nobody in this
I was just going to say, can I take a swing at this? No one. No one.
I mean, just to answer the question, I think he's the closest.
All right, good answer.
It ain't that close.
Back to you, Boogie. Biggest winner of night 1.
I'm going to have to go with OKC. The rich get richer. They picked up a valuable big in Amar. Just knowing how everything played out for them in that conference finals run, the matchup problems more so came down to their bigs. Adding that depth at the big position was great for them. And like I said, the rich get richer. So I'm excited to see his development under OKC's roster.
Wasp, biggest winner?
I would have said OKC. I'll mix it up. Listen, I love Cam Boozer. I think he's the best prospect in the draft, and they got him 3rd overall. So I'd say Memphis. However, I didn't agree with the way they handled their next pick with Kareem Lopez. Interesting to see what happens with him, but to me, Cam Boozer will change your franchise. It's going to take some more pieces, but he was my guy, so I got to say Memphis.
Let's go to Fish next. Fish, do you have a winner for us?
I like San Antonio. I think I forget who said it earlier, but balancing out the Terrace Reed, Jayden Quaintance picks in the front court, I think it kind of reminds me a couple years ago of when the Clippers had back-to-back picks and went with Jerome Robinson, like more of the reach, and then Shea. Obviously, that became a Paul George crazy thing. So maybe that's a bad comparison, but I like kind of the hedge and going for the high upside guy and the high floor guy at the same position. So San Antonio, I think, continues to add to a bruising, huge young core with a really nice first round.
You guys took all the big ones, so I'll be quick. I think Chalk was a winner tonight. This went without many surprises early. And then I think Dusty May was a winner tonight. He gets one of his guys at 9. He gets all 3 of his guys in the top 12 in this draft. And now he gets to coach Cooper Flagg. Nobody saw that coming. What about surprises and/or, I guess, losers? Anything on the negative side? Cart, what's your biggest one from night one?
I think I'm going to go with the Chicago Bulls, and it's weird for me because I love the Caleb Wilson pick, but then to follow that up with Dailyn Swain, I just don't think it adds enough shooting. I also think there's this weird dynamic that Dailyn Swain probably thinks he's better than Caleb Wilson, where I think they need to know that Caleb Wilson's the star of that team. I just don't necessarily know if I like the fit. I question the shooting. I love the Caleb Wilson pick, but I just think they could have done more at 15 instead of a guy like Dailyn Swain at that spot.
Boogie?
I think I might go with Milwaukee with Burries. I'm not a huge fan of that pick. I mean, it made sense in the moment as far as just adding talent, but fit-wise, talent-wise, I think they could have got something a bit bigger, a bit better, but not absolutely mad at it, but I would say that pick.
Was?
I think Dallas reaching on Morez Johnson Jr. Again, I like the fit. I wish they traded back a couple spots maybe to get Morez Johnson, who is like such a likable prospect, and he was trending a lot during the pre-draft process after he got his measurables taken. Fun player, contributed to winning in that Michigan team. But when you see who else was on the board, I thought that was a bit of a reach.
Fish?
I think Morez was definitely the biggest surprise. I was a little surprised to see Dailyn Swain come off the board to Chicago at number 15. It was weird to me, being that we all knew Caleb Wilson was going 4, that Chicago was linked to all these big men. They were perceived as the floor for Steinbach, for Morez Johnson. But then, last Friday, I think it was, they had a workout with Christian Anderson, Boogie's guy, Labaron Philon, and Malik Thomas. Swain was not one of the guard names that we heard, and his camp thought that he was really more in play with Philly 22, Detroit 21, Atlanta 23. So he went about 8 spots higher than he was anticipating going tonight. So good for him.
All right, thank you, Fish. I think I'm looking at that Ebuka Okorie pick. I know Was had it highly graded. I think there were better guards on the board. I don't think the Pistons needed to trade up there. I'm surprised we saw a couple trades for both Stirtz and Okorie when Labaron Philon falls to the Sixers. All right, guys, this was a blast. Let's close with any final thoughts. Boogie, thanks so much for being here with us tonight. This was awesome. What's your final takeaway from night one?
Mark Pope got a first-round pick. Just wanted to throw that out there to you guys.
That is a fact.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you have it. Cart, anything to add?
I think it makes for an interesting start of day 2 tomorrow, because if I'm a team, I'm sprinting to try to get a guy like a Malik Thomas or an Isaiah Evans that's available early. So maybe we'll get a little bit more chaos in the fishbowl tomorrow with some of those prospects still available, even a Vasar still available as well.
I'd kill for some Was chaos tomorrow. Was, final thoughts?
Yeah, we're going to get some weird players tomorrow in the back end of the second round. But first round went about as close to it as expected as it could have gone. Few surprises, but not too many. AJ 1, Peterson 2, Cam Boozer 3. That's what we've been saying since the beginning of the draft process.
And Jake Fisher, final thoughts?
We did get a ton of trade activity in the second half of this draft, and I do think we're going to get a ton moving forward tomorrow. One thing to start off with, number 31, first pick in the second round. Last year, the Minnesota Timberwolves had a major bidding war for that pick overnight. It's New York now. They were getting word that was a 3-team deal, actually, with the overseas prospect they took, him going to Dallas. So, they've already moved back and out and then pushed off of future salary for next season. So do they keep that pick now? There's been a ton of interest in that since they made this a 2-night event. But one team to keep an eye on, the Indiana Pacers are definitely looking to move into a pick somewhere in the 30s. So that's a potential trade-in partner for anyone looking to get out.
All right, we'll keep an eye on that. And reminder, this was night 1 of 2 nights of this very show. Come back with us 8 p.m. Eastern tomorrow for night 2 of the NBA Draft Live show here on Bleacher Report. For DeMarcus Boogie Cousins, Carter Elliott, Jonathan Wasserman, Jake Fisher, I'm your host, Greg Waddell. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again tomorrow.
Sir.